This is the GPL Podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
This is a 10.8% beer. Danker beer.
That's a loaf of bread.
Yes, it is. It's
Hey, I didn't say top 16. Put them in the other states, put them in the Atlantic, and they win the conference. And they're in.
Oh, he's moving the goalpost.
They can be 25th in the third place.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Welcome to the GPL Podcast, episode number 254. I come on giggling here a little bit, Vigs, because I added a little video clip that I got from a certain web person with our guest tonight when he made his famous appearance on Fox Sports.
You know, he's a man behind the scenes, and sometimes he's in the scene. So he's been around Married a lot over the years and helped us immensely. And it's fun to have him on the show finally.
Well, let's bring him in. Former Minnesota and Robert Morris SID, Brian Deutsch. You didn't see that one coming, did you, Deutsch?
You know, I was honestly surprised that it didn't make the rounds this week once it came on that I was joining you guys. And actually, I was telling some people, I was like, there's this one time, man, that I just walked into the shot and that's the visitors bench. What was I doing over there? But it's great to be with you guys. Exciting weekend for me and for my family, and, hopefully Gopher fans and Colonial fans.
It's always exciting when it's Gopher hockey, man. By the way, I actually reached out to that famous TV internet guy, C0, I think it's his handle on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
He had the clip. He sent it to me.
And
then I just had a little honk in the horn there.
I just remember that game. I don't remember the specifics of it, but like my phone was just going off constantly. And I don't think I was married yet at the time, but I was definitely with my now wife. And like she texted me and was just like, "Oh my God." And I was thinking, what's wrong? And then I learned what was wrong.
I just had to include it just for some fun. I know you're a pretty good sport about it. I'm also going to thank you for being on our 250th episode in overtime. You lasted that overtime. It was nice of you to come on then too.
Well, like I said on X or Twitter this week, 250 plus shows in, you guys have clearly ran out of good guests, and now you've brought me on. But that was fun. I had a good time talking in overtime, and even talking a little bit afterwards with just some of the crazy stories that we've all gone through over the last couple of years.
There has been a lot of craziness. I put on the shirt today after I got No One Dirty. I noticed it was from the 07-08 season. They gave us all to the media members at the time. And that would have been your first year covering Gopher hockey for the Minnesota Daily, wasn't it?
It was. I started the year covering Gopher football, and then midway through football season, they said, "Hey, we have an opening on the men's hockey beat." And I had covered the women's team before, and just hopped right in. And I still remember my first men's game was Jim Strick's first game as the SID at the time. And we were down at the X, and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to this guy and this guy and this guy?" And he goes, I don't know who any of these people are. And, all these years later, it was like, you kind of do get that feeling, even year after year, like when guys start showing up as freshmen and you're just like, I don't know much about this person, personally. So it's just kind of weird to all of a sudden be like jumping right in and interviewing them.
Now, Vigs, were you down there the same time Brian was? Or was it a little later?
I think that might have been the time when I was in California for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not as involved with Gopher Puck Live. I took a little soiree out to California with my girlfriend, who became my fiance, who became my wife. So I think it was a good decision by me to spend some time out there. But I knew Brian pretty well when he took the SID job, and we had campus pizza to kind of kick off that season, which was just a smart
reminding
move
me of
by
such a wonderful
Brian.
place. Oh,
And it was a great relationship built on food from there.
Pretty much, yeah. I forgot about that first kind of getting to know everybody at Campus Pizza. That was a good time.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was. I'm looking at the comments. Well, we already got a thank you for you. Thanks, Brian, for setting up a B-Day video from Lacombe. My daughter 2 years ago. She's still a Lacombe fan.
Yeah. You know what? That was always one of those fun things to do, is to go and do personal things with fans and get the guys involved. And a lot of times it was a pain in the butt to maybe schedule it or pull it off. But at the end of the day, almost all the time, guys were big fans of doing it. And I remember, again, I don't remember the specifics of when, but we were on a road trip, and husband and wife ended up getting married at the rink. And we did a big video congratulating them. And that was just one of those spur of the moment things. And I was like, oh yeah, everybody kind of got behind it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the guys enjoy doing that stuff a lot more than doing like 12 media hits on availability day, with local media, national media, other podcasts. So that's the fun part of the job, Brian. And I think you did a great job with it. All the guys would do everything they can to help those, I think.
But before you were at Minnesota, where were you, Brian? You left the University of Minnesota after you graduated. What happened to you?
Well, so I graduated from the U in 2010, and I'd spent 3 years at the Daily, and then I worked with the football team kind of as an undergraduate assistant my senior year. Then I did a year as an intern with the Gophers, and I worked with wrestling, softball, and soccer, and was the interim men's hockey contact for the draft. I believe that was the year Nick Bugstead got drafted. And there wasn't a whole lot to it. And Don kind of just said, I'll just do my own thing. Don't worry, pal. But then after that, I had the chance to actually go out to Robert Morris. It was my first real taste of being on a staff for a Division I hockey team, and doing the exact same thing that I ended up doing back at Minnesota. And that's just kind of where I got my start, and was a kind of a crazy experience and whirlwind, because I basically was out there for 11 months. And then my then boss at the U, Paul Rovnak, ended up going over. He was the men's hockey contact, and ended up going over to football. And just one summer day, I got a phone call saying, hey, the job's open. Are you interested in it? And I think like 2 weeks later, I was packing up my house in Pittsburgh and moving home.
Wow. That's quick. And you were there for 10 years, was it? Was it 10 seasons?
With Minnesota, yeah, 10 years. Yep. So I figured it was a nice round number.
Let someone else have the torture now.
Yeah, I think if we did the math, like the three guys that had been there before me had only been there like less than 10 years. I think the lifespan of that position isn't necessarily good for being 10 years. So
it isn't. It's not like you're Paul Allen at Minnesota State.
No.
So
I don't think anyone would confuse me with Paul Allen. So
I think being SID for a hockey program in college athletics is definitely a challenging spot. You have to have thick skin. There's a lot of demands. There isn't really a playbook for everything that you handle from a day-to-day basis. You have to build it by yourself. And the personalities are strong.
No.
To say the least, Viggs. Come on.
And everybody likes Minnesota. Everybody wants to come back home. So I think it was a good fit for everybody.
That is true. Viggs, we did have some hockey over this weekend. CC was in town. Nice to see an old foe, WCHA foe in town. They hadn't been to Mariucci since 2012. And it was a split. Team was just like this once again. A lot of the same frustrations that Bob's been talking about all season.
Yeah, I mean, we just keep coming back to this. They're 95% there. You see the skill, you see the talent in the roster, and they're able to score goals and produce. It's just, again, these critical mistakes come up by the wrong guys at the wrong place of the rink that is costing Minnesota points. And if we look at Minnesota, they're kind of on this pairwise bubble right now. And it's because of these close games where they're not getting outplayed, but they're just not able to outscore their mistakes. And, last year when you had so much veteran talent, these close games, the Gophers got away with. They were still developing guys like Logan Cooley and Jimmy Stuggerud, but they had guys like Brock Faber, Ryan Johnson, Jackson Lacombe who could pull out all these games at the end. I was talking to Tim Brule from USCHO this week. He's like, last year, Minnesota led the nation in goals in games close at the end. This year, I almost guarantee they're not that high. They have all these close games, and they just can't dig themselves out of it as much as they were last year.
And it didn't help. It just seems like when things happen, even Close kind of had a bad game Sunday, Viggs, but then he totally made up for it Monday, and that kind of entails what the entire season's been. It's been kind of just 90% good, but that 5 or 10% is just killing them at times.
Yeah, and it's only really happening on one night a weekend. You look at the game Monday, that's probably the best they've played in a long time. The first period maybe was a little shaky at times, but once they made a little bit of an adjustment to their forecheck, they controlled the game. And they made so many plays in transition where the skill set of this roster can just shine. You saw Jimmy Stuggerud, Charlie Strobel, Rhett Pitlick all just coming through for the Gophers, capitalizing on transition chances. And it was funny talking to Chris Mayotte after the game from CC. He's like, sometimes when you play a team like Minnesota, them scoring doesn't really mean you're playing poorly. It's just that they are so good when you give them some space or you mess up, they take advantage. And you can't get away from your game plan. And Mayotte thought as the game went on, CC kind of got rattled, and Minnesota just saw blood in the water and capitalized.
Our guy Nate Wells said, your prediction of Snuggerud going off and being player of the week was just a series too early.
Maybe just a little bit. He definitely went off. He started well against Ohio State, but just couldn't finish that weekend. Maybe he was thinking ahead to saving some goals for Sweden. But when he came back, there was no doubt. 5 goals in a weekend puts him second nationally, leading the team. That's the Jimmy Snuggerud that Minnesota hopes they have going forward for the rest of the season. And maybe we'll make him a Hobie Baker candidate if he can keep scoring.
And Brian, one of your favorite guys, Justin Close, got to his 50th win in literally just exactly 2 years after being essentially a nobody, a third stringer when you were there, and all the controversy that happened 2 years ago this week.
I was going to say, 50 wins for that guy. I don't know that he would even have predicted that. I mean, he was always very confident, and I know Bob Motzko was always very courteous and politically correct of saying, like, closer's right there. He's right there. We could play closer. And even at the time, it's just like, oh, okay, but we got these other guys that are in front of him. And then circumstances change and he got thrown in there. And the one thing that I always appreciate, I haven't talked to closer that much since I've left, but the person that he was when he was the third string goalie, coming in and staying out late for practice and doing whatever was asked of him, that's the same person that he was when he was the starter and leading the Gophers to the Frozen Four. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago when I was at the rink, and it's just the same guy. And it's just like he's such a it's almost you'd almost forget that he's a Division I athlete because he's just like the most normal guy in the world, and you can talk to him about anything, and just can't say enough about how much fun it was to follow him along. And that year that I had with him, I had 2 years with him really, but when he took over as a starter and to see how well he did, and then to carry that into last year and lead them even farther, it's just unbelievable to see.
Yeah, I definitely see that with closers. He's just so consistent. When we did our watch party at Tom's Watch Bar downtown, Steven came up And he's like, hey, do you think they're going to move on and give Area a game here or there, especially after the way Close played on Sunday night? And I was just like, I don't think so. He came back for a 5th year. The locker room respects him so much. You got to give him a chance to bounce back. And he definitely did. Closer plays consistent. And if the team in front of him plays consistent, he can shine. I think when he gets a lot of transition plays against him, or there's a lot of chaos where the Gophers lose their structure, that's where he isn't going to be his best, because he's not a big goalie. That's why you have all these coaches like he works hard and all that, but it's hard to give him a chance. NHL teams don't give sub-6 goaltenders a chance. Justin's just not that big. And so you're worried about that. And when the Gophers have that chaos, that's not going to be great for him. And so I think for him to have the stats that he's having, he's got to have that structure in the D zone.
And I got to say, Viggs, I had no idea that goalie masks could fit a stick through the eye socket. I just happened to capture that Sunday night when he, on the 5th goal, he gave up, stick going right into the helmet. I had no idea there was enough room for that.
Yeah, and that's why that cat eye cage is not necessarily approved for younger players, is because things can still get through there. Pucks can sometimes squeeze through, and sticks can too.
Yeah, that was.
I always wanted one of those masks. I thought it was so cool, and absolutely, like, my parents were not big sports people, but I think they had the foresight to be like, that's a bad idea. You don't need that.
Did you have the Hasek, like just the normal steel cage, Brian, when you were playing goalie?
I did that when I first started, and then my parents they spoiled me, and I had some pretty nice helmets. So,
oh, that's good. Protect that.
You have the full glass. They used to have that for a time. The plexiglass, like for goalies.
I didn't see many of the bubble goalie masks, but you had the big plastic.
It was more of a 90s
neck protectors.
old.
You are old.
Shearhorn used to do that, right? I mean, it was pretty common for a couple years there, having that big glass neck protector.
Might get an extra save out of that thing.
We've talked about this, Viggs. They're really on the bubble for pairwise. Splitting this weekend probably didn't do them any favors, especially on home ice. We'll talk about Robert Morris coming up, but they really do need to start stringing some wins together here.
I don't know if the split with CC is going to hurt them a ton either, because CC swept North Dakota, so that's going to help their ranking.
So yeah, we're rooting for CC the rest of the way out. Keep winning, CC. That would help.
That would be helpful. And I think Minnesota is going to be okay when you compare them against NCHC teams based on how they've played. They don't have a situation where they're going to lose comparisons to those schools because, they split at North Dakota and then they split at home with CC, took care of a split with Duluth too, basically. A little bit of an advantage because of the OT stuff, I think. So I think they're okay there. The key is, of course, going to be to keep it going and not drop any points here to Robert Morris in the pairwise. But I thought the Gophers played well. I really liked seeing Strobel and Middlestat on that 4th line together. We've seen them swap for each other in the lineup pretty consistently this year. I think that was the first time we saw them on a line with Jimmy Clark and Pino sitting out. They look strong. Middlestat got the goal on Sunday. Strobel gets a goal on Monday. They were positive in the plus minus on Monday. That's something that Motzko is going to need from his 4th line going forward, is a line that's positive. Don't give anything up. If you score anything on top of that, that's the cherry on the Sunday.
All right, Viggs, we need to talk about one of our sponsors here. We'll just hide Deutsch here for a second. Our guys at Chill Boys. Hey, you were giving away some Chill Boys stuff Monday, weren't you?
Yeah, if you were at Tom's Watch Bar with us on Monday, I had lots of Chill Boys stuff. I had the bamboo boxers, I had the boxer briefs, and I had the performance boxers. So hopefully the fans that showed there got some. We left them in some of the goodie bags for Tom's Watch Bar too. They're just awesome material. They're going to keep everything cool down there. You probably needed to have something cool down there if you were watching the game on Sunday and getting a little heated. So Chill Boys, go to their website, use pull tab 15 for 15% off.
I'm going to the Dominican this week, and I'm bringing as many Chill Boys as I can. Gonna need it, pigs.
Definitely.
Definitely gonna need it. But also one of our newer sponsors, Cub Foods. I know you go to Cub Foods quite often.
Yeah, I live in Northeast.
You've even run into players at Cub Foods in the past, I think.
I have. I live in Northeast Minneapolis, so I'm right by that quarry, Cub Foods, and they're local, and Cub Foods loves local sports. They're on PJ Flex headset. They sponsor the Wild on 7th. They sponsor us, and they've got everything you need. Some of these stores around town, their inventory isn't always great. If you're looking for something you need, Cub Foods is the spot. They've got the freshest milk in town, and love stopping at Cub.
Definitely. So thank you for Cub and Chill Boys for being sponsors of the GPL podcast. Bring Deutscher back, who looks like he's giggling at us.
Well, you're just bringing back fond memories for me going to the quarry and going to that grocery store. I hit that place up like for 10 years as a student and then as a full-timer employee. So
easy out at Cub.
I love when your guys' sponsors match up with my needs.
Well, that's great. Big, you kind of talked about, Pinanimi being in and out, or actually he's out for the first time, switching in with, and you've got Strobel mixing in with Middlestead. A lot of the fans had been kind of calling for Pino to maybe do some setting, and he hadn't done that. And maybe a little credence was built on that from the game Monday.
I think it's going to be hard to break up that line going into Robert Morris when you need some consistency. I know I got another question at Tom's Watch Bar about whether Bob might dress 13 forwards and only 60 as he sorts out this fourth line. And I told him that Bob likes to go 7D because the theory is if you have one of those guys get injured or one of those guys get a game misconduct, it's a lot easier to bring in that 7th forward into your 6D and run a lineup for the game. That is, have a 13th forward, try to figure out how to get those guys ice time because you're struggling sometimes to get those fourth line guys ice time anyway. Now that I've had some time to think, maybe Robert Morris is the weekend where you might dress 13 forwards because I have a feeling Bob's going to want to give Pino another chance. I know some of the fans might not want to give him another chance, but if you're going to do that, this would be one to maybe do that. I like the fourth line the way it was, but we've got a long ways to go in the second half, and you want to keep everybody engaged and give them opportunities to play. And Pino's put in his time with the program. We'll see what happens. I just really liked Strobel, Clark, and Middlestead together.
One quick thing I did want to hit. Do you think Mason Nevers has recovered from that hit initially this season? Because 0 goals, I think 5 assists before Monday's game. I didn't see if he had anything on Monday. I don't believe he did, but not Nevers type numbers this season.
That whole line has not looked like they did last year. And I'm not sure what it is with them right now, but they're not driving the ground game like they did last year where they could control play and transition with other lines. And maybe it's because the line that they're coming out for hasn't set it up for them where they can establish something. Last year that nice Cooley line was just so dynamic that if you came out after them, the other teams kind of spent. Mm-hmm. This year, that really hasn't been the case. The Nelson line has had to establish the possession and the momentum, and they just haven't done that as consistently. I don't think the concussion helped. Obviously, you probably lose a little bit of your legs and conditioning, and you can't push through it. But that whole line has still got some work to do in the second half.
Well, I just think some of it is that Nevers is kind of the spark plug on that line. He's the one who really likes to go dig into corners and just bring the puck out and set the other two up. And I my thinking was, maybe that big hit jarred him, and he's maybe a little tentative in bringing that back to his game.
It could be. It's hard to tell what's going on. It's also these guys have been doing it for a long time, and I'm sure they want to get to March, but there's a lot of work that has to happen from now even until the playoffs. So they've got to find their game and figure out what works best for them. Nelson hasn't been as dominant in the faceoff circle as you would like. He's hovering around 50.5%. That's not an ideal for him. And I know Motzko is really concerned about the whole team in the faceoff circle. They have to be better there. If they're going to be a team that's dangerous, they need better performance in the faceoff circle, especially with Nelson.
All right. Now I was just kind of curious because I hadn't looked at the stats. I'm like, I know Brodzinski's scoring, and Brodzinski's been up there in scoring this year, but I think it's come with some of his power play. But I was just a little concerned about Nelson.
Well, Brodzy just seems to pop.
Nevers.
Brodzy just seems to pop. Like he's got that kind of game where he just needs that little bit of space and he'll take advantage. But he's never been a player who's going to drive play. We've seen moments of him at times where he looks more engaged on the forecheck and with effort on the rush, but it's been a little inconsistent. And one of the big problems for the Gophers so far is getting stretched out.
He's always been that way, hasn't he, Deutsch? Brodzy's always been all over the place. He'd get 5 goals in 5 games, and then you wouldn't see him for 10 games.
I only remember all the big goals he scored.
It makes you write up a little better, doesn't it, when he's got a big goal?
You know what? I always have a deep appreciation for the guys who are excited to talk to media and do a really good job about it. And in most of my experiences with Brodzy, he certainly was good at it and was open to talking. And that's all it takes to make him one of my favorite players.
Oh, but he gave away his secret on that podcast with Parker Fox, though, didn't he, Viggs? He
sure did.
He just loves to go regurgitate what Bob just told them in the locker room.
That is a smart player right there. He often gets in Bob's doghouse, and maybe doing that gets him out of it a little bit too.
I do like vaguely remember several times, Bob liked to be the first one to go in and talk post game, and several times like Brodzy would like sneak in and like almost just hear exactly what Bob was saying, and then I don't know if anyone ever caught that at the time, but probably did just regurgitate the exact same things.
He gave himself up. It was pretty good. So that's one of those fun things. I mean, how is your blood pressure these days? Is it better, Brian? Is it more relaxing that you don't have people like me saying what Gensel said on a bench causing trouble, or we're picking out the wrong guy in the wrong game? No, he's not coming out. No. This other guy. Have you brought your blood pressure down?
I feel like it's gone down considerably. My stress level is just way down.
That's good.
I think if you ask my wife, I'll still kind of like when I'm watching a game, I'll be pacing around and just like, worried. And, you guys know, like when it's not that wins and losses were my life, but like life was just easier when we would win a game. So I always wanted to win.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah. And even that game that I helped out stats a couple, 2 months ago now, it's like, oh, it's kind of nice that the game's over and I'm just kind of free to go home. Don't have to worry about any of this.
Wait, but the stats broke down that night, though, didn't it? I think that's what Rob was saying. They were having all kinds of issues.
Yeah, they had a couple. And then as I recall, we had, a bug that kind of we hadn't seen before. And, the the new stats system is not new anymore, but it's still only like 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine, obviously I'm not seeing it every game, but I have noticed that a lot of teams are having problems with it. And when I say problems, I mean like getting live stats out. And that was always something that was weird too, of like, we're doing 20 games a year at home. I'm not changing anything in the stats. Why? How come something's going wrong tonight? I don't understand this.
Mm-hmm. It has been a little buggy this year, or the last couple of years, but that's good. It's not your job anymore. It's like you said, you were just filling in to actually keeping track of the stats that night because they were short of people. But you don't have people like me saying, "Why isn't the stats up? I'm at home. Why isn't this up?"
Yeah, we had a fun one this weekend where Aaron Hugelin got credited for an assist, and we're like, He wasn't even on the ice, and Jess is going, was there a line change? Is Hughlin now playing in more spot? What the hell is going on out there? It was Red Pillick on the assist.
But you know what, though? Like, I worked Division I hockey for 11 years. I saw the guys inputting stats. I would go in and have to, like, edit some things after games sometimes. You know, things get changed. You know, scoring summaries get changed or whatever. When you sit there and you watch it happen, it is just so, like, you don't watch the game. You're literally, like, watching the stats you need to track. And for anyone who has, like, complaint, you know, I get, you can have realistic complaints about it. It'd be nice if the stats were right all of the time and if they were working all the time. But, like, a lot goes into making that make that whole stat system work. And from the people who are actually running the program to the guys upstairs running, you know, inputting stats, like, it's not an easy job. I got dragooned into doing it again on Friday this weekend, and I'm just not looking forward to it at all. So.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah,
maybe we can get one to Fred's shots, because I was looking at who's leading the nation in shots, and I bet you nothing that you can guess what team he plays for.
No comment.
Penn State.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that was, you know, that I always liked about the stats crew here is that, you know, a lot of times you're just not going to see something live, and you might not even see it on the first or second replay. But at those times, you know, you might have a player come up to you and say, yeah, actually that went off my stick or something. And you would go back to the stats team, and we would come up after media, and they'd be reviewing something just to see, going back over almost frame by frame, checking to see, yep, there it is. And they would update the stats.
And I know it's easy to complain about the stats in terms of, you know, oh, hey, I should have had more shots on goal. I should have had more saves. I should have had one more faceoffs. But, like, just credit to that group of guys that have been doing it since before I came here, before I was even here as a student at the Daily. The investment that they put in to give up their Friday night, their Saturday night, and to stay until 11:30 sometimes. You know, I have nothing but love for all those guys and everyone who's helped out. You know, we've had a big crew over the years, and it's fun to be a part of that group. But it's also a lot of work. And I, you know, like I said, the first time I really experienced that, I was like, I thought I was going to come in and be glad handing, hey, everybody, it's so great to be back. And, like, I just sat at the computer the entire game, and I was, like, almost overwhelmed.
Quick question for you. Did you ever have Tomps keep track of some extra Penn State stats while you guys were on the road? To tell you if it was really a shot or not? Because
I can't. It's going to sound like I'm complaining, but, like, those guys are so dedicated that when we would go on the road, they would still, like, help stat the game to the point that they would, like, you know, I'm sitting there, if I'm watching the game, like, I don't have a monitor in front of me. I'm seeing it live, and then I'm seeing it on a video board, if anything. But, like, those guys would be texting me of, like, hey, just so you know, that might have tipped off of this guy, or that goal should have gone to this person, yada, yada. And yes, while that was very appreciative in certain cases, there were also some times where it was like, guys, I know where we are. I sort of have to pick my battles.
There's going to be 50 shots no matter what.
And the other thing, too, for that, like, when you're on the road, the home team is the official stats book. So, like, what are we going to do? Like, go through and be like, hey, you need to take that shot off because it wasn't a shot. Are we going to do that 15 times a game? No, we're not.
Even though they needed too many. I would say they've gotten a little better at Penn State. I have noticed it's been a little better the last couple of years.
I always think a good barometer for Penn State is look at the stats for their home games and their road games. And it's probably somewhere in the middle. Unfortunately, they don't play many non-conference games on the road.
Now, I would also say, to be the devil's advocate, I would say a lot of teams come in to Mariucci and say that we are way too strict on goal summaries. And that, you know, what's you know, a possession is an arbitrary decision sometimes. And I think our, you know, and fans might not like this, but I think our stat crew is actually probably very conservative in how they call it.
Yeah. They used to do the Final Five every year.
No, they're very good.
For the last 7 or 8 years of the Final Five, they definitely did it. They've done a couple Frozen Fours as well when they were at the X. Hopefully they'll get to do it this time. I don't know.
You know, the one I always like to call out is when we had the outdoor game at it was TCF Bank Stadium, but you know, trying to figure out how we were going to stat a game from.
Was it Brownie down by the ice?
Yeah, so we had someone down. It was Brownie. We had him down at ice level, basically like relaying the play-by-play to us, I think. And that's a weird one. Like, I know that happened, but I was running around all over the place that night, so like I never even talked to the stats guys.
And that was a cold one.
And they pulled double duty because they did the women's game too.
There you go. Wow. The Wild Crew is the antithesis of the PC. Yeah. What can you do? What can you do? Well, let's get into Robert Morris here in a bit, but first, we need to hear from more of our sponsors.
Jake Middleton here, Director of Hair and Hygiene for the Minnesota Wild. How did I get this important role with the team, you ask? I'd like to think it was because of hard work, but the truth is, I run hot. Yep, I'm a sweater. In my role as Director of Hair and Hygiene, I'm sort of like a player coach. Let me pull out the grease board here. Well, it's not actually a grease board, because there is nothing dirty about Duke Cannon. How do I help the guys stay squeaky clean? Helpful reminders. It's simple. Tarps off, Duke Cannon on. Say it with me. Tarps off, Duke Cannon on. Tarps off, Duke Cannon on. Pick the scent that suits you. Sawtooth. Thick body wash. Extra thick. And my favorite, Midnight Swim. Tarps off, Duke Cannon on. Duke Cannon. Work harder, smell better.
Are you tired of the same old fundraisers? Paying $15 for a stale bag of popcorn, chocolate candy bars melting in your car, and more frozen pizzas than you have freezer space? Introducing Ferda Fundraisers, a fundraising company with as much personality as the people who play the game.
Lift big, throw gas, yeah. Dingers. Big dump for the boys.
Choose from great products made by local companies, flexible plans built around your needs. Sell how you want and be supported from start to finish. Deliver max return without charging people a fortune. It's never been easier to support your community. Ignite your fundraising with Ferda Fundraisers. Ferda Boys, Ferda Girls, Ferda Community, Ferda Fundraisers.
And of course, we thank Ferda Fundraisers and Duke Cannon for sponsoring the GPL podcast. Must win this weekend, Vigs.
By the way, if you were at Tom's
wait a second. What do you
got some
there?
of this. So we'll have more stuff to give away later on this year. TBD. But we've got stuff to give away later, too.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks, Duke, and thanks, Ferda.
I was just going to say, this is a must-win weekend, Vigs. No ties, no nothing else. Nothing against Deutsch's former team, but they're not that good, and they're just back from the dead, essentially.
Well, they are back from the dead, so this whole roster is a work in progress, and they have struggled this year. You know, I was looking at their wins. It's not great. You know, Stonehill, Niagara, Simon Fraser, Bentley. They beat Bowling Green the first weekend of the year when Bowling Green was going through their chaos of their player who was stealing stuff from their equipment room and all that. So not a lot of good stuff happening on there. They're getting outshot like 40-25 pretty much every night. You can't lose to this team.
No.
And I know how hard it is to restart a program, but they're 62nd in the pairwise. Important weekend for Minnesota to play solid. You know, when Eric Sherhorn is talking about a get right game, get right weekend, this is one of them.
And I see your face, Deutsch, and I have a feeling you're reading this comment here. Tommy, Wants to remind you the swear jar is active this weekend. Puck Hound is probably it could be Tom's. You never know.
I feel like I have immunity from all swear jars at the University of Minnesota. So I think the boys tried to find me a couple times, and I was like, "Good luck. You ain't gonna find my wallet." So
sorry, I just happened to see that pop up there. Josh Svensson, is this the first time we played Robert Morris since the regional? Did they play him at a regional?
Yeah, 2014
at Excel, right?
Yep.
And
the
Robert Morris was the auto bid.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, they were hot that year too. That was my second year with the team, and I remember just thinking like, oh, an Atlantic hockey team, nothing to be worried about there.
Tell that St. Cloud stayed in AIC. So,
hey, we don't throw stones in our glass house. So,
true. So, yeah, it would be devastating. They lose a game this weekend, they're going to drop like a rock, and it would be all bad.
Yeah, it would be bad. Brian, do you know much about what's going on at Robert Morris? I mean, Derek Schooley's back as the coach. For Gopher fans who maybe don't know, he's a longtime guy there, kept everything going. He was on the USCHO podcast while he was away. He stuck with the podcast even when he got back behind the bench, which is kind of fun to hear his perspectives. But, they had to start from scratch basically again.
One, I mean, the crazy thing is, their program didn't exist for 2 years. And I don't remember the exact timeline of, from when they cut the programs to when they brought them back or announced they were bringing them back. But there was a time where Schooley and Logan Biddle were like running co-ed practices with 10 total players on the ice based off of what their roster size was at the time. And so like to see those guys stick around, I still talk to Coach Schooley a little bit every now and then, but we're not that close. But like I would assume there were options when that program was originally cut for him to find somewhere else to go. And the fact that he didn't take off and that Logan Biddle on the women's side didn't take off and they stayed the course. And it's really kind of commendable how they brought both those programs back from the dead. And I know they had a ton of help. They had that Colonial Hockey Foundation, and they had a big fundraising charity game, and they went so deep in trying to fundraise to bring those programs back and develop kind of a community mentality behind those programs. It's just cool to see them back. And, I would almost say not following that team that closely, but they probably have never had more confidence this season than they did after absolutely crushing Stonehill last weekend. And they're more rested than the Gophers.
That will be true. Dumb question number one. It's been a long time since I've been in school and how things work. At some of those smaller schools, do some of those coaches still teach classes?
It wasn't at Robert Morris.
Okay. No, I think it might.
I'm sorry, that face was me thinking, not me like judging that question, but
because like
I think more at like the D3 level.
I wasn't sure if it was a small school thing or if it was a big school thing.
I think it's more of a D3 thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's typically.
And there's I remember the golf coach at Robert Morris also did like some administrative stuff, and at the AD at the time was actually the softball coach too, and that can kind of go across the board.
Yeah, that makes
from
sense.
NCAA programs, but and then there's also times that where coaches like want to coach, and I can't remember who somebody had like I know it's popular in football where you have like a leadership class taught by the football coach.
And I know Glenn Mason, I taught tennis or coached tennis when he was at Kent State. So it can happen at the group of 5 schools as well.
Well, yeah, I just remember because I actually had Don Bros at Mankato when I was there as a badminton coach, badminton class. But that was right as they were about to turn D1. So they were still technically D3 at the time. So like you said, it's probably a D3 thing, but he was such an old school guy. He may have kept teaching some of those old gym classes even when he became a D1 coach. Who knows?
I remember at St. Olaf, we had coaches doing like kinesiology and athletic training. And there was like a coaching like thing you could take where, Sean Goldsworthy, who's the hockey coach, taught Dan Kosmowski, who's the basketball coach, Matt McDonald, who's the baseball coach, Paul Miller's the football coach. They would all teach like a week or two. And it was just kind of fun to hear their experiences.
Okay. Do we see Erie this weekend?
I think there's a potential where we see him if the game is well in hand. Like if we've got like a 6-1 game going into the third period, I would think there's a chance. Mm-hmm. But Bob has bristled at every question about Erie getting time in the net. We have a radio personality, Wally Shaver, who likes to bring it up very frequently about Nathan Erie's health. And if there's a plan for a rotation, and you just see Bob go, nope, no plans. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. We like Justin.
What was his injury status? Like, I don't know if I need specifics or anything, but like, has he been 100% for 2 months and he just hasn't had ice time? Yeah.
No, he wasn't cleared to play. He had a lower body injury that they kind of discovered just before camp, and he was held pretty much off the ice until December. And he would come on the ice every once in a while just in his pads to kind of get the feel of wearing all the goalie pads and being on the ice, but he wasn't doing drills or instruction or anything like that. It's just recently that he's been cleared to play. And, as we saw in the development game, he looked pretty good. He was technically very sound, handled his rebounds, was a steady goaltender. So I think he's probably close to being ready to play at this point after going through a lot of conditioning the last 5-6 weeks.
And the reason I asked, though, Viggs, is that you think of 2 years ago, LaFontaine played every game. Closer didn't see anything until all of a sudden Laffer's gone. And he was thrown in the fire with nothing really out there. I think he might have came in for a short time. They thought
like 7 seconds at Wisconsin.
Yes, it's so ridiculous like that. But I think the fans are like, yeah, sure, it's going to be Robert Morris. Maybe they would like to see him play an actual game that means something. But then it's like, Bob even said, maybe he should have played close a little bit to get him some legs in case something happened. And then something happened. All of a sudden he was just thrown in there. So that's just kind of the thinking I'm kind of going with here.
I think if Minnesota was like fourth in the pairwise, he'd get a game. But I think where things are at, where they're kind of on the bubble, you don't want to mess around and have something happen where then maybe Erie doesn't have a good game and you got to bring in close anyway. And then your goalie's confidence is now kind of shot going forward. Now, I don't think that would happen, but typically when Minnesota is going to play a team like Robert Morris, there's only going to be 15, 20 shots, and probably 4 or 5 of those will be odd man rushes. That's a tough situation for a goalie anyway. And so it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to force something where you don't have to. And, if Closer gets hurt and then Erie knows he's the guy, that's a totally different situation for Erie to deal with as well, because he knows that there isn't probably going to be a short hook on him. So he can play relaxed and confident. So complicated situation.
Can the stats nerd in me ask a question?
Go for it.
How far away is Closer from the shutout record?
I would have known this a couple weeks ago, but I think it's like 2 or 3. Like I think he's getting really close.
For me.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. If he hasn't given up anything, they're going to let him keep playing.
I have the convenience of not having to care about any other factors other than what's good publicity.
Something to think about. I saw Ryan Kage's question here. Question on the officiating this past weekend. Bob seemed to be getting really frustrated with the younger of the 2 officials Monday night. Is he new to the conference? And that was Ryan Kage. I did notice the younger referee in this series was someone I didn't recognize, so I'm assuming he's new. The other one had been there forever. So I don't really know. Viggs, any thought? I'm
not 100% sure either. We didn't really get a lot of Motzko on Sunday night in the post game, and on Monday night we had plenty to talk about other than officiating. Maybe it's something we'll bring up tomorrow at availability just clarifying what was going on there, because he did seem pretty vocal at times with the officials. So
he did. I'm just trying to look at the stats myself, see if I can see. Of course, this sheet doesn't tell me.
All right, that's gonna be an overtime topic.
It's gonna have to be, because I can't find it either real quick here. Oh well. What do you do? All right.
My days of caring about the officiating are long over. So
yeah.
Come on. Give us something here. Just kidding. I'm predicting sweep. I think that Deutsch, you might have something there. I think Closer probably plays as long as he doesn't give up a goal.
Multiple times tonight it's bothered me that I have a hard time talking about like the strategy of hockey, and then Vigo says something and it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And I could absolutely see if if the shutout's out of the question and the Gophers were leading big, maybe you make a change there. But
see, I think if there's a shutout in play, you're going to let your goalie stay in. So that's why I'm like, if it's 6-1, you might make the change to start the third period, but I don't mess around with your goalie right now.
There's Floor.
Closer's pretty even-headed, but
Floor piping in, of course. Which ones do you recognize? I don't know which one's the younger one.
Brian Aaron's a pretty regular guy.
Well, there you go. Then it was Kevin Corbett was the newer. Okay, Craig, help us out. How new is he? You're watching. We know you're in your garage right now. Tell us. By the way, one of the referees, John, I can't remember his last name. He's close to my age, actually. His last series is going to be the Penn State series at Mariucci. He's hanging him up, and Laura has no clue. A lot of help you are. Jeez,
he knows a lot of stuff, though.
You know what? Let's talk about referees for a little bit, because the one thing people might recognize from Robert Morris alums is they actually have 2 NHL referees, and Furman South. And I don't know if Brandon Blandina still is a referee, but at one time he was. And so it is kind of always cool to see those guys. They were there when I was there, and to see them officiating NHL games is always cool.
Nice. And Floor reminded me it was Jonathan Morrison who's retiring. Yeah, they've been a lot of there's like 3 linesmen that get a lot of the games. There's a couple new ones now too, but they've been linesmen for 10, 15 years in the WCHA and now Big Ten. They've been there a long time. I've gone back and looked at old photos 10 or more years ago, and I see Sam, Nick, and John, the 3 kind of regulars at Mariucci. So good guys. So Viggs, I'm predicting sweep. I assume you're predicting sweep. I hope so.
I am predicting a sweep. This should be a no-doubter for Minnesota against Robert Morris. There's just so much firepower for the Gophers right now. I really like the Pitlick, Moore, Snuggerud line. One of the things Bob mentioned, he's like, they're doing great in transition. They're starting low above pucks, and they're getting the defensemen involved in transition. You saw Sam Renzel join the rush with them in the third period against Colorado College on Monday. That's their game. What they need to do to take the next step is to have a little bit more of a ground game. And we saw some of this from Oliver Moore this weekend. I think his World Junior experience maybe shaped his game a little bit more, where he's making possession plays. Because when you come down the wing and you're on a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-2 and you fire a shot from outside the dot above the goal line, that's either a puck going into the corner for a puck battle or it's a frozen puck by the goalie. It's not a great goal scoring chance unless you're Jimmy Snuggerud. So the smarter play there is to take it deep and find an option. Do an escape move. Look for your teammates. Get the ground game going. And if that line can add that to their bag of tricks, look out, everybody, because that's a big step for them. And they got to stop trying to beat everybody on the rush. Sometimes you got to go that next level.
Maybe the bigger question is, does Snuggerud take over the NCAA lead in goals this weekend?
He's not going to shy away from shooting pucks.
It's definitely not against.
I expect him to get 10 a night.
What do they call it? Point night? Like, hey, Just pad those stats, boys.
It's no joke. All right, Deutscher, you did work for Robert Morris, but you're an M guy, so I'm assuming you're picking sweep.
Well,
But
I
you're
was
not going to really
thinking
get to
about
see Friday game since you're working it, though.
I was thinking about this, and I don't think I've ever expected the Gophers to lose any game. So why start now? I love Robert Morris to death, but I'm gonna go with a sweep too. It would be kind of cool. I was reading something in one of the Pittsburgh newspapers this morning. They have a couple Minnesota guys, and a bunch of them have a huge crowd of fans coming to see them play, and they said the typical things that Minnesotans who come back to play against the Gophers. I grew up watching the Gophers, and they want to put on a good show in front of their fans and their family, and that's always kind of cool to see, especially now, kind of from an outside perspective. Like, I definitely can understand that, and hopefully they have a good showing for themselves and for their program.
Yeah, like I remember when Hunter Johannes came back and played at Mary Jean and scored, you could just tell like that made the weekend for him. Not a great moment for Gopher fans seeing that, and he's doing well for himself now at North Dakota, but for him to have that moment is pretty cool. I think you see that with guys who come back all the time. If they have a good night, anything on the score sheet, it's memorable for them. I do think the big thing to look for, though, is does closer get the 2 shutouts and tie Briggs for the shutout record, because it is 13 and he is at 11.
That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
He's so
just going to make 50 saves.
Collected, though. He's so calm, though. Is it
well,
really pressure?
I asked him once, what are you thinking at the third period when it's 3-0? He's like, well, I'm not thinking about letting in a goal, that's for sure. If that's what you're getting at, you dummy. Goalies don't think like that. And I was like, I bet there are some out there who do. They're just like, I got to get this shutout.
No goals.
He definitely doesn't.
No goals, just like that TV commercial. No goals. Well, Brian, thanks for coming on the show with us. We're low on guests, so we had to dig deep somewhere, didn't we? Kind of what you're saying.
I was a little afraid that at the 11th hour, you guys are going to be like, "Oh, we actually got someone who knows how to talk about hockey." So
this is the perfect fit, Brian. It's Robert Morris in Minnesota. This is a matchup made for you. So
yeah, this is going to be a really fun weekend. I'm excited to see some of the staff members that I still know there. I'm excited to see all the people in Minnesota again too. So and honestly, we're looking. I think this is the first game I'm gonna bring my son and my wife on Saturday, and we've never gone to a game together. And I don't think I've gone to a game as a fan since my freshman year of college in 2006. So wow. I'm really excited actually, and I do need to give my wife a plug. It's her birthday today, and she allowed me to do this. But she's out with a well-earned celebration with some of her friends. So I just want to say
she's partying with the ladies, isn't she?
Impressive dad duty then to get the boy down for bedtime. Well done.
I'm blessed that he stayed asleep.
Winning at life.
I got home at about 6 p.m. and was like, okay, can we put him to bed now? The answer was no.
Oh, well, kids, what do you do? But thank you for coming on. Viggs, you got anything going on in the hopper?
Well, we just posted some of that on GPL as we kicked off the podcast on the weekend, and we'll have that finances article up soon.
I guess I didn't even know that. I have to go check.
I know. I just slipped it in there before the show, so
sneaky.
Got to keep on your toes.
Yeah, you do. But that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. Obviously, thank Brian Deutsch for coming on the show with us this week. We'll be back next Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. earlier time, because I will be traveling and I'll be in a couple time zones away. So we'll do that. And we're going to have Cappy on as a guest. Obviously, they're playing Ohio State next weekend, so that will be good. So for those of you watching live, we'll have a little bit of overtime here. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast. right, Biggs. What do you got?
I've got some hoops brewing tonight. This is their IPA, number 48. They do this cool thing, numbering their beverages. And Brian and I have this kind of favorite thing when the Gophers would be going up to Duluth. You know, we'd have to stop at Northern Waters and pick up some smoked fish. And I always stop at Hoops for a couple crawlers. And so this is one of my favorites from there. They do a great job. If you're ever up in Duluth, I recommend Northern Waters. I recommend Hoops. And this is their IPA. Mike Hoops does a great job up there with their stuff.
And that was the game I was a fan this year. We went up to Duluth.
I'm terrible at crawlers.
That I love that road trip. That's just like I hated that we'd always do them as home and homes. Going up to Duluth, especially in like early part of the season, was just so much fun.
Yeah, we've been complaining about it.
And they're going back to whole weekend series. So everyone will be happy with that going forward, especially us.
Except
That's
there's a
what's
big
most important,
convention there that weekend. And the hotel rooms are already like $300 a night.
It's important to know people. It's important to know people up there.
Where's Brule's cabin at? Can't we all just stay there?
I like
Let's all just invite ourselves. Like
October 18th and 19th at Minnesota Duluth. Of course, you will never hear that schedule from the university probably until June.
Yeah, maybe not, but we got it.
What's your complaint? Whose games are those to announce? Take it up the road to Duluth, pal.
Oh, they haven't even. I don't think they've announced it. Where did we hear it from?
I got the contract.
Oh, that's right. You got the contracts.
I did one of those Freedom of Information Act requests that Brian loves.
Used to
I know how to do back in the day, and now
I don't deal with those anymore.
I did one for this weekend to find out the coaching contract for the Robert Morris game. They get $49,500 for this weekend. So nice little guaranteed game check.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad we waited for overtime for this, but like this is purely like helping them get a schedule put together, right? Same as Lindenwood last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I
This
assume
is Bob
so.
helping them out. They get nearly $50,000 for coming out here. So
let's do this.
Good deal. Bob is very much one of those coaches that wants to help out other programs. You know, when you ask him about scheduling, he's like, yeah, we're going to play the state schools. We're going to play these new schools. I'm sure they're going to be play Augustana here soon. And
yeah, I was kind of surprised that one hasn't been announced at some point.
Yeah,
curious. They haven't played Northern Michigan yet.
You tell me what that is. I don't know. Why
I
have
think
they played Northern?
I think it's they don't want to play too many teams from the CCHA. And if they're going to
Okay.
play one, it's going to be Minnesota State or Bemidji.
No.
I think that's probably the philosophy there.
Yeah, but you know, like they were saying this weekend, a lot of the contracts they want 2 for 1, and that's tough. Yeah, I would like to see them go out to BU and BC again.
I bet they will at some
There was a
point.
time in the 2000s, in actually a lot during Don's reign, where they never went out to the East Coast. One time it was for many years. They didn't even. The furthest east they would go was Penn State or something like that. They just never went out there.
Are you blaming Don?
Yeah, I'll blame Don.
I went to Boston with Don like at least twice.
Bob said he wanted every class to go out east at least once, and they picked different spots. Like they went out to Vermont once. I feel like they made a bunch of trips out east.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because
Didn't they play Cornell one
last time
year?
they were at BU is when they opened up. They closed the old arena, then they opened the new one in the mid 2000s.
That you're talking BU, but we've played BC and Northeastern several times because I remember we've never won at Matthews Arena.
No,
and it's
I'm saying it's better, but there was a time, there was a period of 10 years or 8 to 10 years where they just did not go out to the East at all.
maybe not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Sometimes those teams don't want to play Minnesota either. They're pretty good. What do you got there, Brian?
Well, I was waiting, but I couldn't wait any longer. I'm going to be on brand, and we don't need to know how this ended up in my house, but playing a Pennsylvania team, we'll have a Pennsylvania beer.
That's smart.
There you go. Very nice.
That beer selection's on brand for you too. I mean, just that style. That's your style. I'm an IPA guy, Imperial
Plain.
style.
I need to get a refill myself. I will be back.
Vigo's heard this many times, but gutter palate when it comes to beer. Although I think Yingling's pretty good. So
yeah, it's good. It's a good beer. It's kind of crisp. It's kind of sweet. It's a barley pop. It's right up your alley. Yeah, I miss you. I don't have a pho partner. For our listeners, I like to go to Bona Vietnamese restaurant on campus in Stadium Village. And Brian and I would routinely sit down to 2 bowls of pho. Too bad we never got to have one with Rem Pitlick, who is also a pho fan.
He's a big pho guy.
Who else? Anyone? Or just Rem?
Rem was the only guy I ever talked to about food, really. Other than this is bouncing off the walls, but Ryan Johnson and Jackson Lacombe were really into protein shakes or like protein smoothies, and the stuff that they're putting in their protein smoothies and the protein smoothie or the smoothies, there's no protein in my smoothies, are just very, very different. Like I'm putting coconut water and some yogurt and some fruit in mine, and they're putting all these scientific concoctions, and that's why they probably look the way they are and I look the way I am. But
are they throwing in like supplements and stuff like creatine and whey protein? And
I don't want to get anybody in trouble because I'd be speaking out of turn. I wouldn't know what I'm talking about anyways, but they're putting a scoop of this, a scoop of that.
Yeah, steroids basically. Dryden McKay juice.
Hey, two guys playing in the NHL. It worked for them.
Yeah, it's the Dryden McKay juice. It just never showed up in a test.
Well, it showed up in a test. We just waited 6 months to tell anybody about it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's also, COVID kind of ruined my on-campus lunches quite as often. So now pretty much every time I go back, I go to Bona, and the guy who's the server there knows exactly what I want every time. He just goes, dinner size or lunch size? He's like, egg rolls? 2 egg rolls? I go, half order, cutting back. 45 now.
I see all these different influencers on Instagram talking about all the great pho places in the cities, and I'm like, oh, I should go there with Vigo. And it's like, Vigo's the one who wants to go. I'm the one who never comes up to the cities. So
I can come down to you if there's ever a place that shows up on the influencer list your way. Yeah. I can travel.
The influencer list. Yeah, I just had to have that video for you.
I was telling some people at work about it, and I was trying to explain how ludicrous it was. It's like I couldn't even find it, and that's like, I don't know, man. I just like walk into the background of the camera, and clearly I am hit by a truck of like, oh, I shouldn't be here.
No, I totally hit up C0. Was it CJ0?
CJ0. Yep.
Yeah. Totally hit him up on that. Let me see if I can get it added to this thing here.
And Brever, caveat's like 3 blocks from my house. One day I had Brian have lunch in my backyard during the summer during COVID, right? Because otherwise we would have ate inside.
Yeah, it was summer of COVID. Yep.
It was like 90 degrees out, and we've got
the worst meal I've ever eaten.
We've got these hot, like burning plastic, containers of pho that we're trying to eat. And Caveat does a great job. Like their pho has ribeye. It's shaved ribeye that goes in the hot broth, and it's like raw when they put it in the broth. So it's got to be hot to cook it. And it was a bit of a mess doing that when we did it, but it was still great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the food.
I hate myself on my pop culture. It was fun.
Katie recovered from that pretty well, at least.
I'll educate myself on my pop culture. It was fun.
She's such a pro. So
She probably had no idea it even happened.
No, at the time, never happened. Yeah, no. Afterwards, she was laughing about it, but.
Yeah, well, thanks, TJ 0%. I messaged him earlier. I was putting the intro together. I'm like, I wonder if he's got it, and sure enough, he did. He had a longer version of it, that had included something a little before and a little after. But he must have a huge library of all that stuff because he got it to me quickly.
He's good at what he does.
I'm dumb. Like this, what's the purpose of doing that? Like, is his account monetized so he's getting compensated for that? Like, I appreciate the hell out of it. It's super cool that I can know, like, if anything important happens on TV at night, I know I can go to his account and it's going to be there.
I'm assuming you're right. Some kind of monetization.
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have the blue check, so who knows? But he does a great job on it.
The other one I wanted to ask you guys, this Gopher Notes account. Do we know who that is?
He's not local.
Good Lord, that I just want to know his system because that's better than the system we had.
Yes.
He's pretty quick with everything too.
Yeah. And again, it's like, hey, you gotta same for the stats crew, even you guys, I don't know how things all work with you guys, but just the time investment in covering this team. And for that is on a Twitter account and putting up notes that I'm sitting here going, how did he find that out? Or I don't, I'm saying I don't know who it is, but
I'm looking at some.
Oh, see a fake down reference. I love that.
It's not.
We know fake Don a little bit, so
it's not fake Don.
It's not him. I don't think he has that kind of time.
I can't imagine it's fake Don. So
yeah, he doesn't have that kind of time to dedicate to it.
Fake Don doesn't even have time when I text him commentary anymore. So.
He's moved on. It's not as fun with fake Bob.
No.
So this guy's been following games exclusively on the radio this year because he's out of state. That's all he said. He's out of state.
No. Well,
he told me he wished he'd started the account sooner. Could have done something when you guys were down here for the Frozen Four. So it sounds like he's a Florida guy.
Tampa.
That's all I know.
Well, hey man, pat yourself on the back because multiple people have reached out asking if I know anything about it and what I think of it. And I want, by no means have I wiped my hands clean of Gopher hockey. I pretty much watch every game still, but I'm sitting here going takes a lot to be that invested and spend that much time.
Maybe it's a she, not a he. Maybe
it could very well be a she. Yep.
It could be Allie Ray. She's no longer working as a nurse. She's got the money coming in. She's got the money coming in, so she's decided to move into Gopher game notes. She's got money to burn. She's got a staff. She's got a team of interns churning out stuff for her. I can just see it now.
Wow.
Did I ever tell you guys we had a meeting with an ad company that kind of owed us a favor or something a couple years ago, and one of the things they asked about was hey, does the university have any famous fans? And it really we don't, our alumni are the famous people that support our programs, right? And then when all of a sudden, I didn't know anything about her, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that's a choice.
It's like some people have Vince Vaughn or Ric Flair or, The Rock.
The Gophers have something else, but hey, support is support.
Hey, it works. Yeah, I think Minnesota needs to work on that. Develop some famous fans. If Prince would have been a big fan, that would have been nice. But he was more of a Viking guy.
My pie in the sky was that Ron Perlman went to grad school here. And so I always was we got to get him to a game. But I don't know that college athletics is anywhere near his interest level. So,
gosh, I've seen a couple of things people ripping on Jess Myers tonight.
The Gopher Puck Live crew is having a tough time with Jess.
Well,
Hey, you got to give him some credit. He broke that
World Junior
news.
Oh yeah, he did totally.
Online hockey site, according to the Star Tribune.
Yeah.
Online hockey outlet, the Rink Live.
Really? Did they really do that?
Yes, they really did.
And also they buried it in like the 9th paragraph of the story of like, hey, maybe put that a little bit higher up there.
Yeah, the Star Tribune doesn't make a lot of friends with the local media. No. You know, everyone likes Randy and all that, but like the sports department sometimes rubs people the wrong way.
I was just glad to get credit for the Doug McLeod photo.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys know if anything came of that? I never heard anything about like a service or anything.
I think they kept it quiet. His family thing.
I mean, his family can do it, whatever they feel is right. And he was a good dude. I liked working with him. So I see someone from the Stack Crew, right? This puck hound, Nick Swardson would be a good person to buddy up to, but he's so deep on the Vikings, right? Like I don't think he's gonna want us.
Yeah, Gator says, get Yanni on the podcast. Really? That's some old school Minnesota stuff right there.
Lou Nanny hanging him up after this year's state hockey tournament.
Hey, I was amazed that this I was going to say blog. I'm so sorry. I was amazed this podcast even happened. Like, has there been a more crazy week in sports? Just with like World Juniors being off the chain last week, it coming to the cities in a couple of years, Black Monday in the NFL, Nick Saban retiring, Lou Nanny yesterday. It's just like, oh my God, there's just so much crap going on all of a sudden.
Will Bill Belichick still be the Patriots guy? I'm just waiting for that to happen.
But they're doing it. It's funny because like people who are huge Patriots fans talk about how classy they are, and people who hate the Patriots mock the hell out of that, and it's hilarious to me. But like, I think that's what they're doing the right thing. They're gonna like give it time so that he can be the focal point. Right now he's getting if they pull the trigger this week, hey, he's one of like 90 coaches that got fired this week. Whereas now if they happen to do it in a month, they probably have Vrabel already signed. If they were smart.
True.
I don't know. Yeah, so there's so many Gopher alumni and coaches at the game Sunday. Gensel was there. Lucia was there. I even saw the old video guy too. I've got him. Barzy was there, looking good actually. So Barzy was looking good.
Did they have some sort of thing going on? I mean, I know sometimes they try to do like a informal alumni thing, but
it's actually the group with Leopold and Nick Angel. They went and bought like 175 tickets for alumni and their family, so they had a ton of them there. Just nothing official, just at the game. They were downstairs in the new alumni room.
Were they spread out or all kind of together?
They're all spread out. They're all over the place.
Okay.
I saw Jim. Was it Jim Boo up in the club room too? And a bit earlier this year, Bill Baker was down in one of those nice luxury seats too. Those big leather. He was right in the corner. He had the actually good seat, which is actually the corner seat. So,
yeah, Jim Boo's one of the organizers for those old timers. So, Brian, do you remember that transition of the alumni when it seemed they all wanted to come back?
I'm very aware of that. Yes.
So what was that like with all the alums kind of showing up again after being away for a while?
I mean, I loved it because it's fun to like be around those guys and have access to more, like, right or wrong, people can make their own decisions. It's not my business, but like to have access to like guys wanting to come in and do stuff and be around the team. And, you know, we can point fingers of who's responsible for what and everything, and who cares, it's over. But it was just kind of cool, like seeing guys that wanted to be around the team. And like, that alumni wall down by the locker room is a real big point of pride for me. And to see guys that, like, I don't know who I just saw. Was it Eric Westrom? I think I saw on LinkedIn, like taking a picture with his kids next to him on the wall. It's like, oh yeah, that's like super cool to me. That's one of those things, like getting that project done was a pain in the butt, but then to see how well it was received by alums is just like, oh yeah, worth it.
And they're signing the wall now, aren't they?
Yeah, so the New York Yankees have it where they have just like this weird slate thing that all their alumni can sign, and that's where it came from. But yeah, there's kind of an opening that all the alums can come down and sign it.
Is there a qualification for signing it? Like, if you're someone who was the person before Jimmy Snuggerud to miss a penalty shot, could you go down there and just sign your name? Or is that kind of a no-no for someone like that?
I think a certain someone's sister might be more qualified for signing the wall. Didn't she win 3 national championships?
You're gonna stay out of this one?
I don't know of the parameters of what is deemed an alumni of the Gopher hockey program, and if you ask my opinion, it's how much do you care about the program and how much have you dedicated to the program. If it's a lot, you're an alum. I know guys that didn't play a single game that are counted as alums.
I mean, this guy we're talking about doesn't have kind of the track record of Nick Seeler beating the crap out of guys, but you know, he's still a big guy, big fella. Nick Seeler, one of your favorites, right, Deutscher?
Nick Seeler, you know what? Never had a problem with him. He was not crazy about doing media. And you know what?
With that,
I don't want to do media. I can at least respect that. But hey, that guy turned into a continuing and successful professional career. So tip of the cap to him too.
He has found a niche. I saw a recent highlight video of him just being a pro.
Yeah,
quite the career.
Yeah, I guess. Jeez.
No, because he was with us for 2, right? But he only played 1. He was out for 1 transfer year.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? Had some issues with the previous coach at UNO, and made a new home for himself here.
But you know what? Didn't give me an ounce of trouble. So that's, again, I'm real happy to win over. Just don't make headaches for me, and that's all it takes.
I caused you quite a few headaches. It was great.
Well, we're not going to let you sign the alumni wall, so that really doesn't matter.
Deutscher, any headaches from me? Did I ever cause any headaches other than breaking news to the coach that the coach didn't know that helped him? We won't talk about that here, but any other headaches that I've caused?
Well, I mean, we talked about this last time. Like, the headache for you was that you knew things. And you knew where to find things. And it's like, you know, it's not my position to make that an issue. You know, there's people with a lot more sway than I do. If they have a real problem with it, there's ways that could have been addressed, but it's not for me to do.
But you always got the grief from above, though, didn't you?
Grief. I wouldn't call it grief. I call it complaints. So, and like we've talked many times, like, yeah, I don't love that you talk about everybody else talk about how many tickets were sold, and you're writing articles about how many people show up. I don't love it, but you know, especially at a certain point in time, I can understand why it would be news.
I think it's very relevant to get the temperature of a fan base to see people who spend, you know, $1,000 a year plus and don't show up. I think that's just fascinating to me. And
basketball coach talked about it this week. He was talking about how many no-shows they were getting.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, the building is so much more fun when it's full. Like if there would have been 9,000 people at the game on Monday, I know Monday was a bad night. You know, there's a wild game, there's a national championship football game, there's a forecast for snow, it's whatever. But like that was a fun hockey game. And it would have been funner if the building was packed.
But like
it makes the building.
But like what was give me an honest answer. Like it's not like we were bad when we had terrible crowds. No. People just hated the Big Ten and wouldn't buy in.
Well, the funny thing is people bought in initially, but then they lost interest.
Yeah.
You know, because the Big Ten was not very good.
But they were literally still buying in because they're buying tickets, and you'd have 2,000 to 3,000 no-shows.
Yeah.
That's
I guess the one thing that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way is, you know, you can say we weren't winning national championships, but we were still a pretty good hockey team. So I never like saying, we weren't playing well. It's like, well, I disagree with that assessment.
The bar is so high for Minnesota.
Just contrast it, though, that the Michigan quarterfinal series compared to Michigan Big Ten championship the last 2 years.
But that was just
1,200 to almost 11,000. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. In hindsight, it was executed poorly, and I don't know that there's any. You know, I'm not going to blame anybody because I didn't raise any issues when that decision was made. But yeah, that was not a lot of fun. I'll be honest.
No, it wasn't. But
I
got that's when I get yelled at by Pat Micheletti because I put that panorama photo up and he's like, "What are you doing that for?" I'm like, "Go back to radio." He came over in the second period break and yelled at me. Like, dude,
passionate about the program. We need more of that.
True.
Passion alums are key, and you definitely need more. And you need the ones who are just do what needs to be done to help rather than the ones who want something out of it.
Yeah.
There is a difference there, I think, in some of the alums. Like some of them want it to somehow help them or want to be compensated for support or something. It's interesting.
Well, and the other thing too is like so much in college athletics has changed since I walked out the door that it's hard for me to even pay attention to it. But like there were times where alumni were upset about things, and it's like I don't know if people ever explained to them, like, we can't have you do certain things. It's not that we don't, you know, we're not trying to be disrespectful, but like, I'm pretty sure we're not allowed to direct alumni to contact prospects. Like that was at one point, that was a big no-no.
Pretty sure that is still a big no-no.
Well, just don't get caught.
Don't get caught until you do, and then it's bad.
So you don't have the DQ Cup, do you?
Well, I'm assuming they mean the North Star College Cup.
No, the DQ Cup.
No, DQ Cup was way before me. Not way before me, but before I came in. So,
yeah,
the North Star College Cup, we think,
is in Duluth.
The replica North Star College Cup. So Duluth has the actual one, to my knowledge. I don't know what they're doing with it. But then the X had a replica that was like kind of a smaller version of it. And that one was in my office when I left. I chose to leave that in the hands of the University of Minnesota. And the last I heard, that is a candy dish for the athletic communications office.
Oh,
yeah.
Which in fairness is what I was using it for when it was in my possession, but
I think Mark Barr's got the DQ Cup somewhere. I'm just speculating because the DQ Cup wasn't. Well, it was better looking than the North Star Cup. I would say that, Biggs. But
I don't know. If you ask Nate Wells, the North Star College Cup is Paul Bunyan's chalice, and I like it. It's made out of wood. You can drink out of it, which is a good thing. Any kind of trophy that you can drink out of is a good start.
No, Vigo, you're wrong. There was a hole drilled down the middle of the cup. So you could not drink out of the North Star College.
I did not know that, and now it's the worst trophy ever.
Yeah, I don't know about the original, and it pains me to say it because I hadn't seen it since like year one of the North Star College Cup. But at least the replica, there was a hole drilled down, and it was that did ruin that ruined its usefulness for me, honestly.
I'm trying to find anything on the DQ Cup. It's hard to find.
Well, what was I know that it was because it was like all of the Minnesota teams competing against each other stat wise. I mean, like point wise, but I don't know that like there was a trophy or anything.
There was a trophy.
Again, it was before my time too. So
yeah.
Okay, so I chose to play nice on the actual show. What is Stonehill? Like I have so many thoughts here of like how did this team go Division I and nobody talked about it? Like Lindenwood was kind of different because Lindenwood had the existing women's program and they played Minnesota and North Dakota that first year out of the gate, so it kind of got some publicity. But then before that, like forget Penn State and Arizona State, those are other planets for bringing their program in. Like LIU, I remember because they announced during COVID, and everyone was thinking like, "This is dumb." They made it work. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to see them. I mean, I wouldn't say having.
Wasn't Illinois going to do the same thing?
But Illinois got killed by COVID, and however you want to use that as an excuse. But like they had at least done research into it, and then universities are talking about cutting millions of dollars. You're not adding hockey when you're doing that. That's where the LIU thing was like, do these guys? Is this a joke?
Do they know what they're getting into?
But then Stonehill, like, what is like? I've gone to their website, I've looked it up, and I know they're having a really bad year. But it just seems so strange that it's a D1 program that like had no fanfare.
No,
and they're so under the radar. Last year, like I think they got thrown out of the pairwise computation because they couldn't play enough games, and then this year they're winless, right?
0-19.
I think they're 0-20 according to their stats, but maybe that's such a weird thing. Like maybe they're using an exhibition game that they forgot to mark as an exhibition or something.
Yeah. So I don't really know other than that they're making the leap without trying. So technically,
and one of the great things about college hockey is that like everybody gets behind these new teams, and then to see this just not happen, it's like, what is this?
Yeah, so Stonehill 64th in the pairwise, Robert Morris 62, Lindenwood 60, Long Island 53. And then you have to go up quite a bit. And then there's Augustana at 37.
Augustana's doing pretty good.
Yeah. I'm sure St. Thomas is much.
Former Gopher. We'll let Rab sign the alumni board. He should have already.
When they play someday.
Rab's is not an alumni, though. He was just a coach. Come on.
Hey, when they talk about Gophers at the World Junior, Steve Miller is now included in that 5.
I was upset Rab wasn't in the picture with him. He put in his time.
I don't know.
I don't make the rules.
Nah. It's this arbitrary line of who's an alumni.
I don't know. It's probably because he was a St. Cloud guy before that, and distinctly remember him scoring a lot of goals on Minnesota. So there you go.
So what should we know about Derek Schooley and Robert Morris that people should know about?
He's a really good dude. I don't know how old he was when I came and worked for him, but he basically took a 21 or 22-year-old kid under his wing and let me not screw up his program. It's funny, like he always goes to Frozen Four. He's a real personable guy. You guys have listened to the SGO podcast. He knows what he's talking about. Anybody who comes from the Frank Serratori coaching tree is a winner in my book. He was with him for a while at Air Force. And then, like I said,
I badgered him at the Frozen Four in Tampa quite a bit, and he humored me with his thoughts and was affable and friendly and gracious with his time. And we talked a little X's and O's, as I like to sometimes get into the coaching piece of college hockey, and he was real sharp with pushing back and then pushing me towards ideas and things. So appreciated that. I think it's tough that he's going through what he's going through right now. I just don't know how easy it's going to be for them to come back. It was so much pressure on the grad portal right now. There are so many teams right now that are grabbing like the top 20% of the portal for big time programs. And then the other 80% all have kind of issues, I bet, somehow in there. It's like you don't know what you're getting. And so do you pull from that pool, or do you recruit kids out of junior and then have them in your program and then lose them in the portal to the bigger schools again? It's just Atlantic hockey's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Sarah Torrey at the Frozen Four about this. He's just like, look at all the all conference guys from Atlantic hockey. They're all transferring to big schools.
So the rest of Stonehill Athletics moved to D1, dragging the unwilling hockey team with them.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody who's chiming in on the comments too, because that's useful information too. And like I'd say more opportunities in college hockey is better for everybody. It's more very surprising to me given the recent history of adding teams that like everyone was like, oh, we'll just fly under the radar. But the one thing for like Robert Morris, and I'm not down in the weeds figuring this out, but Vigo and I have talked about this before. Like, it's got to be hard recruiting, and like they kind of had a leadership change at Robert Morris, and maybe that plays a factor into it. But it's got to be hard to recruit to a program and have to answer the question of like, hey, didn't they try to get rid of your program? Why would I want to come there? And I don't. It's a tough thing to have to answer. I'm sure other schools use that against them. Of like, they basically had to go out hat in hand to keep their program in existence. Is that really where you want to try to spend 4 years of your life?
Yeah, and especially at Atlantic hockey, Sacred Heart has their new rink, which is gorgeous. It's really a nice spot. And then you've got like RIT, which is like a super great academic spot. AIC's done very well, winning, the tournament in Atlantic hockey and getting into the postseason. Holy Cross, obviously, Gopher fans love that school. Mercyhurst has been okay, and then you've got Air Force and Army, which are their own unique institutions. So tough spot to recruit, I think.
Will there be more shakeups, you think, Viggs?
I mean, a lot of people are predicting another conference shakeup is going to happen. Fenton going into his role in a new conference, that has Denver in it.
Was it the Mountain West or something like that? Or something weird?
Summit, wasn't it?
Summit. Yeah, the Summit. Right. So there's rumors that the Summit might have a hockey conference and pull some of those NCHC schools with them, leaving some of the other ones, kind of floundering,
hanging out
a conference. And maybe they're going to try to steal teams away from CCHA and some of these new schools. Then we have 2 more conferences pop up. I feel like something's coming. If the Big Ten can add another team, it makes them more stable. Where is that going to happen? Yeah, as Brever's saying, Miami wants out of the NCHC. I think who else was thinking they wanted to move? Is it Western maybe might want to move out, but they're doing well in the NCHC, so maybe not. Minnesota State with Hastings was trying to move somewhere, but now that he's gone, are they going to be able to sustain anything? The CCHA is all up in arms now with Minnesota State losing Hastings.
Yep.
Bemidji's leading that conference right now, which is kind of fun for Saratori, but it's surprising. So I think there is another shakeup coming. But I think there probably just needs a few more teams to pop up for it to happen. And hopefully from athletic departments that are a little more stable than your Stonehill and Lindenwood. I feel like Augustana has a lot of backing. St. Cloud might have to downsize. It's interesting. The NCHC is dropping the tournament at Excel here because of player experience or cost. It's expensive to rent out Excel for a weekend.
Very expensive.
That's why there's not regionals there. we'll see. Nothing's clear right now for how the next shakeup's going to go. Hey, Deutsch, do you have any good stories with our new sponsor leader, John King, when he was doing his bevies with Bob?
The bevies with Bob.
No. I don't remember who I was talking to about bevy with Bob.
Probably me.
No, it was someone. It's kind of weird when you leave the sports industry and you start talking about like the weird things that go on, and they're just like, oh, you chose to work in that? It's like, yeah, it was normal at the time. But like, I just remember, and I apologize if I'm remembering it wrong. But like Kinger would be in like Chicago or somewhere, and he'd only be available a couple days a week, and it would never be like a convenient day of the week. And like some days it'd be game day and be like, hey, can't really make it work to have the coach drinking a beer on game day. Like we're not airing this live, but it still isn't a good look.
Yeah, we wanted Coach Motzko on a fish house on White Bear Lake, and we're gonna be drinking beer.
but this was the funny story for that. Like it was weird because like Kinger was like the showrunner, right? Like we just did whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah. And
then it's almost like a BTN Plus production. Like our team produced all of it under his direction. And he always had like these off the wall, like he wanted to talk about, we did like a Thanksgiving episode and he wanted to be like, who's the stuffing of the Gopher lineup? And it's like, it actually makes sense. But when he's telling me, it's just like, oh God, how's this going to go? I didn't know Bob very well at the time. It's like, is Bob going to be behind this? I don't know. And Bob was always on board with it, which was great. But the one thing I love was like the last episode we did, they wanted to go ice fishing. And it was a great idea. Like I loved the idea, but we were battling with both of them because they wanted to do it outside, like not be in an ice house. They wanted to be in the element.
Tip ups. Yeah, tip ups.
And like, okay, but if it's windy, the mics are going to pick up wind and it's going to be a disaster. And then like planning it out was a disaster because you couldn't bring a generator out because it'd make too much noise. So as I recall, like they filmed that scene like 3 feet out on a lake. Like it looked like they were in the middle of the lake, but as I remember, they're actually like 6 feet out from the shore. Yeah, that's one of those like a lot of things. Like it was a big headache because you have to facilitate all this different stuff, and Bob's time is very valuable. Kinger's time was obviously valuable. We have to get our production crew situated. But then when we'd post them, people like loved it, and it was like, okay, cool.
I think the Kinger was still working at that big wig New York agent.
New York, yeah. So I just remember that like it was weird. He was only available like select days, and it was like, okay, sorry, Bob, I don't know what to tell you. The host isn't available. And then it must have did it die because of COVID? I don't remember the timeline of it. Why did we stop doing it?
I might have to ask the Kinger.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a good bit. And I could totally see like Rem Pitlick being the cranberry sauce. It's like not for everybody, but adds a little something extra to the team.
It absolutely is like a Kinger production when you think about stuff like that. Of like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that makes sense for him.
Well, just look at the Middleton commercial we play for Duke Cannon. That's got the Kinger written all over it.
Hey, props to you guys. Like just the production value with actual commercials on your podcast now.
I know.
But when that popped up, I was thinking like, he's a smart dude, Kinger. Like he knows where to put these ads to get them to be useful. But all I was thinking about is like, if you're just a regular person and you see that ad and you're like, why do I want to use the same things as that guy?
Do I run hot? Do I need to take my tarp off?
I don't know Middleton at all, so I feel bad saying it, but it's just like, oh, he doesn't have all of his teeth. Like, should I be taking hygiene lessons from this guy?
I love it because it's a total hockey thing there. total hockey thing, and we get it.
I did appreciate, Vigo, you going down or not go, pulling up your props, because I actually was going to do the same thing, because I saw like I'm not that far from my bathroom downstairs, like got the Duke Cannon hair stuff. I got some Joe Mama salsa upstairs. Like, man, I could just come down and put a plug in for you guys.
You're a target market, Deutsch. Thank you for supporting our brands. No, it was kind of fun. At Tom's Watch Bar, like the people who showed up were awesome and came up and asked questions and got lots of swag from me. So that was fun. I've got more. So I think we'll have another event here sometime in the second half of the year. And hopefully some of these podcast listeners will be there, and I can hand some gear or salsa or caramel dip too, or, whatever. If someone's got great flow, I've got hair product.
Live from the Kohl Center.
Are we talking about first round of the Big Ten or second round of the Big Ten hockey tournament?
No, we're talking at the end of this month.
That might be hard to swing. I'm still in the middle of youth hockey, but maybe for the Big Ten championship, we can go to Kohl Center. Sorry, Steve.
Not do downtown on a weekday. Yeah.
I mean, a big reason for the event being when it was and where it was Grey Duck Spirits is working with Tom's Watch Bar to make Grey Duck vodka their premium rail vodka. And with that partnership, Grey Duck is trying to grow their business enough where they can donate $1 million a year to Dinkytown athletes. And so getting in bars is a big step for them to grow that base. So if Gopher fans can go to bars and ask for Grey Duck vodka, it's going to help Grey Duck and it's going to help Dinkytown athletes. Because if they just get 30% of the market share from Tito's, that's $1 million going to Dinkytown athletes based on, I think, 25% of revenue from vodka sales would go to Dinkytown. So 75%, $3 million, would go to Grey Duck, Minnesota company. $1 million goes to Dinkytown athletes. So if you drink vodka, it's a simple switch.
I did love your isolationist mentality of like, why are you sending money to Texas? Send it to Minnesota companies.
Same thing. If you drink light beer, I mean, you can drink a Yingling because it's fun and it's from Pennsylvania. It's for the show. But if otherwise you want a light beer, Duck beer is just fine. It's actually brewed by a big brewery here in the metro, and if you heard that they were brewing it, you'd be supportive of it. They do pretty good stuff. But I'd always see
the event with Grey Duck vodka. There you go.
I saw someone had made a comment about who came up with Let's Get Weird stuff. And I just wanted to give Devin a plug for being a big pain in my side for all the years we were working together. But just like the Beverly with Bob stuff, like that guy knew what he was doing. Might have been a pain for me to have to answer for some of the things he chose to do, but he was a good guy to work with too.
We had a watch party, a GPL watch party at Campus Pizza back in the day. It was one of those BTN double headers. And Devin came over late in the evening with all those little Goldie face masks.
Oh, from the outdoor game, yeah.
Yes.
We were wearing masks before it was cool.
He brought a ton of those things over, just on his own, over to Campus Pizza and gave a bunch away. Just because he could. And I still use his photo that he used when he was at Penn State. I don't know if that was for football. It's probably for football, but
no, it was with us.
Oh, was it with you? Okay, well, there you go. There was no snow on the ground, but I don't think there was. But he did have the scarf wrapped around the Nittany Lion.
That did not go over well.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was. I think he put it out from the hockey account.
Oh, did he really?
Oh, yeah. Their fans were so mad about it,
and our fans were still psyched about it.
We still get heat for it.
Did he put the picture of him on?
No. It was just the lion.
I've seen because he's got the one with just the scarf, but there's one with a scarf and him on the Nittany Lion.
Just for Bobby here, I think you got to buy it in Minnesota to get it. So especially with the vodka. It's got to be a Minnesota sale. But sorry, I digress.
Oh no.
Devin
plug
was
the sponsors. Hey, plug anything that's going to make the university athletes some money. Okay, I'm all for it.
And Jimmy doing Unreal now. Can we get Unreal for everything at the U? When's that damn Nike contract done, Bees?
not for a while.
Ugh.
That Nike
That'd be a great
contract is a
story.
it's a school-wide contract for Nike, which is important at least to football and basketball players. So that's a big thing for the school. And Fanatics, that deal is like another 7 years.
Yeah, but
Unreal could contract with the U to do something separate, but they just can't be the primary sponsor.
But that's something they could do in 7 years. Let's just say. Oh no,
Yes.
no, seriously. If you want, Unreal could be that brand by then. Bees. I mean, they're getting bigger and pushing the local thing, which Minnesotans love to do. Sorry, Nike, we're going with this younger company that's local. That would be a big story.
I'm not terribly aware of their entire product line, but like they don't do like athletic gear, do they? It's like golf. What would you call it, Vigo? Or am I wrong?
Well, they have like athletic workout gear too.
But are they going to make a Gitch for guys? Workout shorts, dry fit tee.
Yep, they've got that stuff.
Okay, oh yeah, I just don't know. Like to me, when I see their stuff, it's like the cool looking fashionable stuff.
Correct.
Yeah. I think they're still trying to get
their wild drops or whatever. Like it's like, okay, that's really cool, but like I'm not going to wear that when I'm working out.
I think they're trying to get distribution on their other stuff. They have it. I think they're still trying to work out like their production and supply chain issues to really compete in that market, but they do have it. I know, Jupe, I've got some samples for you.
Yay.
For some Unreal gear. I was giving out some samples at the game on Monday to some people. So,
of course, Steve, let's get those jerseys they wore Monday to the fans. It just got to the players.
Did they have any reason for that? For why they waited so long to wear them?
It's not, they weren't ready.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I try to leave Lee and Jeff alone with that kind of stuff. Like, I don't need the inside details of the program anymore.
Wasn't it that the home darks were the first ready? That's why we didn't even see the home whites for a while. They wore the darks at home that first that Bemidji State game, didn't they?
I don't know the particulars, but sometimes like that can be an external team request of like, hey, it'd be cool to have photos of us in the dark jerseys.
True, but I think in this case,
yeah,
they literally they had just like the gold ones. They had gotten into town like a month or two ago. So then they have to go off and get lettered and numbered and all that other stuff, and that takes a while.
Because they send them out for lettering, right, Brian? You know the groundwork for that, right?
Yeah,
they send them out.
I think Lee can like do it, but if it's a mass production job.
He doesn't want to do 100 jerseys.
Yeah,
he'll do one.
Yeah,
like when Matt Bryant joins the team as a club goalie, he's like, "Got it. I can put Bryant on the back.
Let me get that one done quick.
I can do that." He does it by hand. They don't have the machine like the Wild do.
Because if you even notice when they did in the hype video, there's like no numbers, no names, there's nothing. It was just the logo. It was how it came from the manufacturer. Blank jerseys.
What do we think of them? Do we like them?
I like them.
I'm just glad they finally got vintage golding on a jersey, like front and center on a jersey.
Yeah, I liked them. There's still a little potential for another jersey, but I hear that one's not even in yet either. But we'll have to.
Please don't make it be anthracite. I'm scared that you're not denying that.
But the gold ones just got done recently, so that's why they wore them. So wear them a lot. That would be nice. I've always liked the gold ones. It even goes back to, for me, 2007 Final Five with North Dakota. They're wearing their green. Gophers are wearing their gold. There's 19,000 fans at the X. Obviously the incredible ending to that game. It was just maybe that's the pinnacle of the WCHA was that weekend right there. And I just love as a photographer, I love the contrast too. So what else we got here? Vintage Goldie is Vintage Goldie is the best, but you know what? I'm starting to miss the old skating Gophie. They hardly use them anywhere now. We lost Biggs. He's probably getting a refill.
No, I always, the jerseys was always one of those things, like, I have nothing to do with it, but I would agonize over, same as the organization of the line chart, where, like, hey, we're 10-0 in golds this year. Maybe let's use the jerseys that we're winning a lot in. Or like for line charts, it'd be like we wouldn't touch the Lions, and we'd go on a hot streak and we'd win like 5 games, and then it doesn't matter if it's Bob or Don, like they change it. And I kind of want to be like, you do realize that we haven't lost since we've moved to these lines. Why are we changing like, hey, I get like changing the personnel around, but like putting the BMW line at number 1, like let's leave them there until we lose, please.
Well, and part of the BMW line doesn't score on the power play, creates issues.
Oh, Biggs coming on strong.
Hey, keep it positive. Keep it positive, man.
Oh, Sammy got his revenge when he almost hit him with the golf ball. So,
yeah, there we go.
It's not Tito's, is it?
No, this is Blanton's. I hope Grey Duck someday makes something like this, but it's going to take him a while. We got a little horse with the letter N on it if anyone needs one.
Let's bring you up close here. Show us what you got, Biggs.
Oh, I got a end of a Blanton's barrel. They're kind of fun if you find them. They've got a little horse on top.
Very nice.
Cheers.
Cheers. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So if anyone knows, Sammy got sent down, and Russo basically said today on his podcast that, the compete level is just not there. If you're going to be a 4th line player in the NHL, you got to be a little more than just turning over pucks. So he's got lessons to learn as a pro still. So this one's a letter N, Puck Hound. I know where to find you if you need it.
I tried to look before I hopped on. What did anything come out about Nyes yet?
I haven't heard anything except for the video.
You got an inside story for us?
No, I'm wondering.
Oh.
It's like I just can't follow it as close as I used to. And then, I used to just get all my information from TweetDeck, and I'd have it on a monitor and it would run down, so I was staying up to speed with everything. And now, someone will text me and it's like, yeah, sorry, I don't know anything about what's going on. So
you used to do a lot of the tweeting, didn't you?
Oh yeah, like the day-to-day stuff was usually at least 50% me. And anything that was like business side, we had like Aaron would be our go-to person for that, but like team-wise was usually me. Yeah. Me, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Like I'm hitting send, but like we had someone doing the graphics. We had people working on the video.
Yeah.
I'm not doing all that work, but
definitely within the graphics. You always get somebody doing that. I don't think Scott does as much of the Twitter stuff.
No, my understanding is that Dan is doing.
Dan does a lot.
Yeah.
Dan does, yes.
Dan's got a little more fire to his keyboard than most normal Gopher sports Twitter or people. He's a little more edgy on social. So I don't know if he's a big
because we were up late in Grand Forks, and didn't something come out like 2 a.m. and we're like, Scott, what are you doing up? And you're like,
yes.
And no, it was Dan tweeting out something at 2:30 in the morning or something.
What?
Because we were just having a late night beverage
with Schloss, probably.
With Schloss, yep.
And maybe some karaoke going on.
Well, like it's not any different than NHL. I just, it was always kind of frustrating for me that, like, you know, the game ends, we're trying to put some stuff out before we're doing media, but then, like, you know, at 12 o'clock at night, what's the point of putting out content?
Because it feels good.
Yeah, but if we're not getting anything out of it, it's just like, okay, like, then do we wait until tomorrow to do that? It was always, I always just was like bothered by this, like, okay, we're going to put out the recap, the final graphic, maybe a couple promotional things, and then we're shutting down for the night. But I can't argue with that because, again, like, what's the point of posting at 12:31 in the morning, you know?
The U account is huge, though. I think they retweeted one of our videos of Closer on the podcast feeds, and the video just went crazy. It had like 40,000 views. Just like that.
Because it was great content. It was great content, right, Deutsch?
That's one thing now, like, I'll hear praise being sung for like 200 interactions. And it's like, it's not quite moving the needle for me, guys. Sorry.
It all depends on what it is. I mean, Vigs, what's some of the videos you put out earlier or some of the stuff you put out earlier this year got huge views.
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice working with Pull Tab because they'll amplify stuff. And then because we're doing stuff with Dinkytown, Gopher Sports picks up on it, and the Gopher Hockey Twitter account picks up on it and amplifies it. The house that Brian Deutsch built supports Gopher Puck Live and EVgo.
The house that 3 or now 4 Frozen 4 trips built, I think is what you mean.
Right. But it takes time and it takes consistency to build that stuff. And, you know, obviously Gopher Sports is different than Gopher Puck Live and me personally, but we keep growing. So people are noticing. And we got 49 people still with us tonight at 11:30 on a Wednesday, which is fun.
Yeah, just that picture of Close getting the stick in his eye, 55,000 views.
Which is good for us, Brian. Don't diminish it.
Hey, that's good. No. That's read between the. I'll talk to you guys later about reading between the lines of what I was referring to. But
I think I know some of the lines already. So it's okay.
But even like I saw someone before asking like if I was happy to get out before the NIL stuff became prominent, and like that was kind of a thing of you know, I didn't leave because of NIL, but it was like, man, it's just like there's all these different changes going on, and it's just kind of hard to keep track of what's going on. And players are coming to me asking questions. It's like, I don't know the rules and what to tell you right now. I'm learning this as fast as you are. But like, it is weird that not that long ago, it was a violation to even retweet or like anything Gopher Puck Live put out. And now it's like, oh yeah, we're sharing your content on our pages.
Well, some of the NCAA stuff is ridiculous. It just
I never that was one of the many rules that was frustrating of like, because your like primary coverage was Gopher Athletics, we couldn't use your content. And then it got really weird that like when Vigo was writing for The Athletic, we could share it. But when Vigo's writing for Gopher Puck Live, we couldn't share it.
It's fun where we draw the lines, right? And then we have to color around them.
So like any time it was controversial, it was like, oh, I think he's doing that for The Athletic.
Oh boy.
I think like a guy like Nick Saban retired today because he's like, this is not college athletics I want to be a part of anymore. And good luck. He's like, I can't deal with it anymore.
And all players are already leaving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course. I mean, you're not playing for the GOAT coach anymore. You're going to play for someone you don't even know. And you're running out of time to find a spot. Like college scholarships are limited. You know, it's not like you can just go play for anybody. You know, there's a cap and they can force people out, but it's messy. Like even in Minnesota hockey, you know, people get kind of pushed out a little bit here and now with recruits coming in or transfers coming in. we will probably see some of that at the end of this year. Like there will be guys who leave the program, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be awkward. Like Johnny Sorensen, I was like, man, it would be nice if he was still a Gopher, but he's getting his degree in Alaska that he wanted to get, and he's still playing, and he's playing a bigger role. Good for him.
Another guy didn't give me any headaches. Nice guy to be around. Love him to death.
Yeah.
Did Kluse ever cause you headaches by him dropping a couple S-bombs at media?
Not so much. Like
I was hoping it wouldn't, because the kid had so much passion. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't remember like the like a cursing ever getting brought, heat brought back to me. There was one time where like I don't remember the specifics, and I'm not going to name player names, but someone basically said like, we quit playing on our team, and it was slightly taken out of context, but at the same time I was just like, but isn't that true? Like we basically did quit. And then it's rough of like the staff is upset. The player is upset because his words were sort of taken out of context, but you did say the words. And then that's one of those things I'm sitting here like, this is what we're upset about? Like, I'd be more upset that we lost badly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, for like with the player in that situation, I was just like, I mean, I was there. I heard what was said. You did say that. It's not necessarily the way, like, again, I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't think this is that bad of a thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, the newspaper's out. Not a whole lot I can do about it. So.
Yeah, but imagine being around with like Long Island Frazee or some of those things. That would have been just crazy if you were around for that.
I think I'm with Deutsch on this. It's like I think everybody knew that Fox was the bad guy in that scenario.
Oh.
Like college athletes drinking underage. Oh my gosh. Call the police.
No. And hey, the other
the
thing,
outrage.
I get bringing his name up in this, but you guys tell me, I don't know if you guys were, maybe Jupiter, you were around, but like, hey, Jeff Frazee, anytime he had a shitty game, he came out and talked afterwards. So I
did. Yes.
Again, like I didn't work with him. I covered him for a couple of years, but like credit to that guy, because there's other guys who are just like, well, I don't want to talk. I played like crap. It's like, well, good luck with that at the next level.
I'm with you 100%. He even did some blogging for us back in the day on the site.
No. Yeah, I think I brought this up the last time I was on the overtime, and I was a freshman, and there were some hockey players in my dorm, and I really, that was kind of a lesson I learned at the time was some of them had gotten in trouble, and by in trouble, like they got caught drinking in their dorm, which I got caught drinking in my dorm. It's not the end of the world, not a big deal. But I was texting some people. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? Take my email away?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they might.
They'll wait 20 years for that.
But I had
20 years later.
I texted some people at the Daily, and I was like, "Hey, this is happening," and like the immediate response was like, "Who cares? Like, we don't write about stuff that happens to everyday college kids."
Yeah, that's what the whole thing is about. Like like Vig said, shocking kids drinking underage. Just like the people who are reporting that did when they were that young. It's like, come on.
One, if it's a story of there's widespread underage drinking at an establishment, I mean, I never even saw the actual story, but it seems like there was a problem for the establishment more than the people who were allowed to go in.
I saw it back in my day when I was going to games, going out afterwards. that was just how it was done. And you got to think the bars too. They're thinking if we let this kid in, we're gonna get more people in here. We're gonna make more money. I mean, it's just
they were just ahead of the NIL game by about 20 years.
Kind of.
Well, it's just like, is it anecdotal or is it news? Like, there is a little bit of a difference.
It's sensationalism.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I've got a Gopher player who's refusing to meet with the scouts, that's kind of newsworthy, maybe. I don't know.
I thought about that when I saw. Did you see Colby Cohen?
Yeah, I retweeted that today.
I was like, oh man, I'm just glad I was never put in that situation.
Like, hey, yeah, Matthew doesn't want to come out and talk to you right now. Maybe you should fly back to Toronto.
There would be a couple times. Like when Bob came in, it kind of became a little bit more like casual. Like, hey, if we have a good relationship, we're going to let them come back into the team areas. But for the longest time, they were out kind of by the media area.
Yeah,
and I just remember several times where like trying to think of who I could comfortably name, but like a big name GM is sitting there waiting. And it's like, hey, sorry, player, do you want to maybe hurry up and go talk to this GM? Because he doesn't seem thrilled that he's been waiting for you for 15 minutes.
Well, a lot of times it's because, it's after a game. And I've seen the security guys like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait. The security guys will tell them, we don't want you guys back here because, these.
Well, they're not just going to let him in, but like when Kyle Dubas is in town with Scott Bell and Bill Guerin, and they want to come down and talk to Brock Faber and Matt Nyes after a game, everybody knows what's going on. And if Brock and Matthew didn't want to come out and talk to those guys after a game, that's newsworthy, I think. And there's enough people at Gopher games where you're going to see that. Because that's one of the things about going down for availability after a game is, it's right next to the Gopher locker room, which is closed off by thumb pad doors. And then the visiting locker room is just kind of out in the open. And you just see the scouts come downstairs and talking to their players. And that's just normal college hockey stuff. And I think it's the same everywhere. I think Mariucci is kind of unique in that there's kind of like a T intersection where everybody goes through. Like if it's at North Dakota, it's a maze down there. Like that's a weird building to try to get around anyway. So it's not as obvious. But like at Mariucci, I know who's there and I know who they're talking to. And you can sometimes hear kind of the stuff they're talking about too. It's a pretty open space. It's not like they have a scout room at Mariucci for people to talk about stuff.
Something to think about.
Yep, in the phase 3, after they fix the concourse and the concessions, they'll do a scout room.
We're like Marvel. We have like 9 phases planned.
Somebody was talking about the actual elevators when we were in the elevator, saying that
they'll never be replaced.
It would cost about $900,000, $300,000 or something a piece to change. I'm like going, that was weird.
Jupe, the elevators on campus sometimes can get so old that when they break, they can't go buy a part. They have to get it manufactured to replace it. In the Mayo building, which is over by Boynton, over by River Road, one of the elevators broke. It was broke for 6 months because they had to manufacture the part to repair it. Felt real safe getting in that elevator the next time it was open.
Oh, man. Infrastructure. You got to fix that infrastructure. Actually, the slower elevator is probably actually St. Cloud, but it's just not going as far. But the St. Cloud elevator is not fast either.
That's possible.
Oh,
I remember hating that elevator. Also, that one's tough. Same as at Mariucci because it's also a fan elevator too.
Yeah. Well, Jack is watching right now.
I felt bad. I didn't watch last week's show. I should have.
I'm surprised he's got reception from his ice house. I haven't checked the schedule. I don't know who Minnesota is playing tomorrow.
Let's see if he's online.
Do you have a favorite Jack story, Brian? Now that he's listening?
Yeah, I do, and I'm gonna say it's lame, but it's not.
It's overtime. You can be as lame as you
well,
want.
like because I was thinking about this. I always get asked like who my favorite guys were and my favorite memories, and it's really hard to like the closer one. Like that probably is like my number one favorite story, just because it's like he's such a good guy, and like nobody ever would have predicted it.
He's in bed.
but the one I was thinking of for Jack and then Eric too was just that their senior weekend, and that was kind of a weird one. Like there was a little, as I recall, I'm getting my years screwed up, but there was like a legitimate worry for me at least of like, oh, it's the first time we're going to play Arizona State and we're going to get swept. This is like, oh, we could get swept. It wasn't that we were going to get swept, and then to turn it around and sweep them. And I don't remember if it was the first game or the second game, but Jack had a really good goal. Darren Romenko had a really good goal. And then I still keep watching when there's 30 seconds left in the game and Eric Shearhorn is literally trying to do anything in his power to cover the puck so that Brock Houts can get some ice time. And I don't know how Brock felt about it. It's 30 seconds. Is it really that big a deal? But like that experience was just like unforgettable for me. So that'll always be one of those, like, I just loved that weekend.
Well, it's cool because it's important to Eric.
Yeah.
To get Brock.
And like, Brock, you could almost say is like a closer guy. Like, he never really got a chance to show what he could do. And so just to see him get that, very brief reward, and even to have Eric be able to go on TV at the end of the game and talk about how important he is to the program. Because that's one of those things, like the third string goalie is always an awesome person to work with. We had like Ryan Coyne and Nick Lair. I don't know if Nick was like necessarily the third string goalie, and I think he was more the second string guy. And closer and those guys, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, and I very much apologize, but like, they're super nice to be around. They're almost more like your coworker than someone that you're, a student to a professional. And I always loved all those interactions with those guys.
I don't think the common person understands how important the fringe players, the fan team are. Like, you don't have a team that operates very well if you don't have players kind of who aren't stars on the ice, who try hard to contribute to practice and the program and the atmosphere. Like, it doesn't work just to have like 6-star forwards and 2-star defensemen and then just like trash everywhere else. Like, you have to have good people in all these roles or your team doesn't work. Like, you can't practice effectively. Your locker room isn't serious. Your meetings lose their juice. Like, it can be a real problem if you don't have the glue to keep a team running. And it can also help a team that's struggling to get back on track. If you've got your scout team type players going, hey, time to get to work. Like, we're not doing well. We got to figure this out. I'm taking this serious. I need you to take it serious. Like, that Rudy Rudiger atmosphere helps a ton. And I just don't think people recognize that enough. And now we're getting in this era of like AAA hockey. And if you're not AA, you're nothing. It's just terrible for athletics. Like, you have to have a complete program to be successful. You can't just have passengers.
The other Ramsey story that I was thinking of as we were just talking is there was actually one game where Ramsey gave us the line chart. I think we were on the road, and it was always kind of a pressure situation to make sure we got the lines. Sometimes we had to like go chase down people to make sure we got them. And I definitely remember, I don't know the year that it was, where like we just went to Jack and was like, hey, do you know what the lineup is? And he gave it to us. And it's like, oh, thank God.
And Jack goes, yeah, we're starting. It's me up front.
It's 26, 16, and 23.
Yeah.
I'm curious. your thoughts on LaFontaine in his Michigan game, post game. I think we all loved him after that news conference. Do you remember?
Are you talking when
he got the sweep at Michigan? He was very emotional after the game on the video on the Zoom.
No,
and
I remember, and that was super. Hey, emotion's great. I'm not.
Yeah,
and I honestly, Jack's a pretty good dude. Not here to belittle some of the choices he made. He did what he thought was best for him, and he gets to say he played in the NHL. Forgetting all that, what was frustrating for me was that I wasn't there. That was when we were in COVID, and I was sitting at home, and it was uncomfortable. Of like, I don't know what to do from couple hundred miles away. I'm like, should I end this? Should I let this go? But yeah, I mean that's what I remember from that one. That was just like kind of a unique situation that I don't have a lot of experience in having to deal with that one.
I just wish he would have stayed for the rest of the year.
No.
That was such a great moment that now will forever be tarnished by the position Carolina put him in and the one he took.
No.
It's too bad because he was a fun player to interview and to watch and to see his growth, and that decision that happened changes a lot of that, I think, for everybody, because that was a really cool moment.
Yeah.
And I remember being on that Zoom, and you don't want to take advantage of a guy, but it was a real moment that you very rarely get because you don't have a Brian Deutsch rush you in to like stop it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too to think about is like, if I was there, what would I have done? I honestly don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, would Brian have grabbed my shoulder and said one more question, or would you have let him have that moment? Because it was pretty powerful. At some point, we'll maybe retweet it and put it out there for people who didn't see it live or whatever.
Well, and I see someone saying, didn't he do that from the stands? Yeah, like that was, they just kind of like, as I recall, like I would set everything up and we'd use like Ben Gordon's phone, and then like Bob would take it and then pass it to a player and pass it to a player. So it's not even like anyone was there to like, if I'm recalling this correctly, he's just sitting in the stands by himself. It's not even like any of his teammates were there to be like, hey, you're okay. Like it was, I definitely remember that being a surreal experience. And then the constant messages of tell Bob to move the camera. And it's like, he's holding the phone. Like, how is he going to see me message him?
He's just holding it up at the nostril view.
I do have the video if anyone wants to see it. Want me to put it up? Because I think I can get it.
I mean, now I don't. Doesn't matter to me, I guess. But
we have 44 people here. If someone in the comments wants to see it, maybe.
Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. Can you hear it?
It's it meant a lot. Me.
Could you guys hear that?
Yeah, it's choppy.
Yeah, it was. Well, it's choppy from there. So,
this is a place I thought I was going to spend 4 years. So, it means a lot to me.
Was it difficult with the no fans in the stands? How did that affect you at all?
No. It was another good battle. Like we came out hard, and my D were blocking everything. Forwards were doing really well, and just a really good team win.
Let's go to Greg Cameron with College Hockey News.
A lot of emotions right now, Jack. How proud are you of your team to start start like this, 8-0 in your first 8?
I'm super proud of my team right now. I'm probably the luckiest goalie in the entire country. You know, like our team, we got 4 lines. We can go all night long. You know, we're building something special here. Like we got a really good culture here, and we're gonna keep it going.
That's enough. But yeah, that was
Brian Deutsch just wondering who to let answer or ask the next question.
I'd forgotten you weren't there, Brian. It's my mistake. In that. It was hugely emotional moment, but man, it was a great moment. I thought it was. It was so good for people to see that emotional side we don't see unless you win it all or you lose it all. You don't just see that emotion in the middle of a season.
Well, and like I was messaging maybe Vigo about, this week they're playing 4 games in 7 days. And that got me thinking to like during that COVID year where that was like a normal thing. We were playing like 7 games in 10 days and playing every day of the week. And mind you, winning every day of the week. I don't know why that's so important to me. And when I talk to people about it, it's hard. Like it was saying it was fun isn't the right thing because it wasn't fun. It was like a very troubling time for everybody, but just like it was kind of a unique way to do things. And I guess I was looking back, it was like kind of an interesting scenario that we all had to learn how to operate. So,
well, I just remember it being a very isolating time, and it felt like those moments and those events would bring that society thing back together. You know what I mean? Because it just felt like a weird time, and you missed camaraderie and you missed fellowship and you missed the community, and it was unique. And I see some of the comments like he didn't know he was going to leave until like the day he was offered that contract. It was really quick.
Yeah, this was December.
This was the year before that too.
Yeah.
Because he thought it was going to be his last games there too. That's why.
And like my memory of that happening was like they had nobody else to play goalie, right? Carolina, that is.
Right.
And
like they were down 4 goalies.
I don't think 2 months ahead of time, and now it would have been a year and 2 months, but like I don't think ahead of time that was something they had envisioned. I think it was like we literally have no bodies to play in goal.
True.
Do you want this or do you not want this?
No. Worked out pretty well for Mr. Close.
Yep. Kind of a cool story for him. So.
All right, I'm tired, guys. I need to go to bed.
Thanks, Deutsch, for coming on.
If I get out of here in 1 minute, I can still go up and say happy birthday to my wife. So
better hurry.
Nah, she might be asleep already. She'll still be younger than me tomorrow, so don't matter.
Oh,
special.
But so will you guys be there this weekend or no?
I will not. I'm traveling early Saturday morning, so I won't be there Friday night.
Wow, that sounds like a bullshit excuse.
There's some youth hockey commitments that are going to
I'm getting up at 4 a.m., dude.
So you're not coming to either game, Vigo?
I'm going to try to be there Friday.
Okay, well, I'll see you on Friday then, at least.
I've got some commitments this weekend.
Yeah, pizza commitments.
Not pizza on Friday. I've got a hockey game on Friday, but it's early, so I might be late. Who knows? But I'm going to try to be there. I want to see you. I want to see Coach Schooley and say hi. And I probably can't slip him a bottle of Grey Duck, but I want to.
Could be an interesting podcast next week, Vigs. I'm hoping
we'll see how it goes. I mean, if we can pull off the Tom's Watch Bar, we can pull off.
Yeah, but you never know Wi-Fi in another country.
It's true.
So Ohio State's not doing very good, right? Right. So
they're not great, but they're dangerous. They won
Minnesota has to get some confidence this weekend and next weekend, and then it's back into Murderers Row, and even then, it's like it's tough, right? I mean, they could do at large for sure, but it'll be tough catching Wisconsin and Michigan State at this point.
I don't think they can win the conference, but the idea is, I think right now for them to put themselves in position for a home game, first round, and then go on the road.
Bob
Or
might
2
like
home
that
games
better.
and championship.
Because we know Bob doesn't like the current format, and nobody does. So,
Yep.
What do they want to do?
Shorten the competition to 2 weeks.
Also, do one weekend and then 4 teams finish it out.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be fine with that.
got to do it.
But they can't get all the coaches to agree, even though Bob said they would. Someone doesn't like that idea.
Shocking.
So I'm afraid to bring Tristan to the game on Saturday, because when he watched the replay during the COVID year, granted at that point he was like 18 months old, but he was cheering for the Robert Morris goals and not Minnesota goals. So I'm a little like worried.
Are you worried
I'm
he's going to be
sure.
upset that Robert Morris isn't going to score any and Justin Close is going to get 2 shutouts? And he'll be upset?
He's like typical teenager at this point. Like, he'll openly root for the team he knows that I don't want to win. So he was saying that he, like, for the CC games, he's like, I like the dark colored jerseys. I'm like, no, we don't like that team. Like, cheer for the team that pop. Like, how is this hard for you? You've had 5 years of cheering for the M team. Come on.
I think you two need to watch more Bluey together. I think that's really the solution.
You ever see the stuff of like dads that are like, well, I'm so glad I have NFL Red Zone so I could watch it on my phone every Sunday. Like, that's absolutely what Saturday was. We were watching, I don't know what we were watching, but I'm sitting on my phone watching Fox 9 Plus. It's like, I think they scored. I don't know. or like, the fans are not moving. That must mean the other team scored.
Well, it'll be good to see you in person if I can make it figure out my schedule. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well,
probably Friday.
I'll be there no matter what. So,
all right. Well, I'm sad I'm going to miss you there, Brian, but
enjoy vacation.
I will try to enjoy vacation. Good night, everyone. We're going to bed now.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
you.